The girl read in the newspaper that the ship sank, and she says that they weren't even attacked by pirates, and they weren't caught in a storm or ran aground on a reef. The main character does not understand. Who would have thought that in the end, it would catch fire due to non-compliance with fire safety rules, because she thinks that there is water everywhere. But in the end, the ship sank due to fire. Inez says that she needs to go to the bank and offers to prepare for her trip. Inez Eldrin, a celebrity in social circles who single-handedly raised the Earl's family from its knees. When she was riding in a carriage, she looked at the building and wondered how much it cost. The main character believes that if she doesn't want to go bankrupt, she'll have to buy a building in a good area, and she doesn't understand what to do if she buys it and it catches fire. At the bank, the lady was met by an employee who greeted her and then showed her where she should go. The lady who saw Eldrir was surprised, and the man asked if this was the woman who was called the investment genius. One bank employee assures that this is a thing of the past because he heard that she lost money on everything she invested in recently. However, he still thinks she is as beautiful as ever. Among the many nicknames that Eldrin has been given, the most unique is the goddess of investment, and whatever they touched, it burned out. At least until last month, the main character wondered if she had been struck by a total misfortune. She also wondered what single women needed and thought it was a reliable family, education, and close friends. However, she still chose money. The woman asked the girl when she was going to get married, and then said that if she delayed, she might miss out on her golden years. Eldrin asked in surprise if she really had to get married. After the ceremony, she would come of age. That was all she had heard. The girl said that she was so busy earning money that she had no time to think about marriage. However, the lady claimed that no matter how much she earned, she would not be able to get married. At such moments, the young lady always showed the bank statement, and after that, most people shut up. The Marquise, when she saw the bill, said that she still had to get married and claimed that her son was a very family man. She believed that a woman needed to meet a man who was good at managing money. The main character understood that all the women changed in their eyes and secretly hinted at their sons or relatives. Over the years of investing, Eldrin had finally learned something. She believed that the more money she had, the better off she was alone. Inez had one ability. She used it when she started investing. The girl smiled and said that she was Inez Eldrin and that she was pleased to meet the man. The man said that it was an honor to meet her. After the deal the man made with the girl, he got very angry because he would never have thought that the business would fail, and he understood why he was unlucky in everything he took on. The main character had the ability to see the misfortune that befell other people. Misfortune can be known by a handshake or a simple collision. Inez always knew how to make the best choice, meeting countless people and seeing the misfortune that must befall them. Suddenly, the robbers burst into the bank and screamingly say that everyone shut up, and then they turn to the main character and claim that this concerns her too. At this time, the girl thought that she could not even imagine that in the morning she would lose the money she had invested, and now she would also become a hostage. A month ago, the ability suddenly disappeared. The bank employee offers the girl to sit down, and at that time, she thought that although she had invested in safe areas, everything she had put her hand to had collapsed under absurd reasons. The young lady reflects on the fact that she has a meeting at lunchtime, and she never thought she would have to waste her time here. And she assumes that Shamor, who was left outside, must have already called security. The robber, screaming, asks how it was possible to confuse this with a bank check. The bank employee says that these are his documents. The main character heard this and was surprised because in such a situation, he worries about the documents. Inez looked to the left and saw a man with black hair who was acting very calmly. The bank employee says that he truly feels sorry for Ms. Eldrin and assures her that they will take care of her well-being. Hearing this, the robber asks if he just named Eldrin. He smiles and says that if there is a representative of the Eldrin family here, the ransom price will be huge. Suddenly, the black-haired man who was sitting very quietly quickly used his fists to put the robber on the floor, and the other thief pulls out a sword and threatens him not to come near him. The stranger pulled out his sword and quickly dealt with them, and then he says that he was pulled out of the line and asks if he fills out the paperwork, will they accept it. The bank employee says he doesn't think now is the right time for this. The main character tells the guy that she can help him. And at that time, she thought that in the VIP room, everything can be solved here and now. And she thinks that since he saved her from wasting time, she would like to help him. Inez turns to the guy and says that if he doesn't mind, he can go with her to the VIP lounge. The girl touches his hand because she was curious about what he was doing. Suddenly, the young mistress realized that he was the master of the demonic sword, and she thinks that this is all because of him, because the master of the demonic blade went mad. The young lady realizes that the demonic sword, Togrios Koyam, was the one that destroyed the sacred tree, a cursed blade that leads its owner to death. And this guy is the master of the demonic sword. Inez reflects on the fact that her power has returned, and she understands that she could not have not known him, since he is the most famous person in the empire and maybe on the continent. The stranger turns to the girl and tells her to let go of his hand. At this time, a policeman comes into the bank and tells them to lay down their arms since everyone is surrounded. Well, when he saw the captain, to understood everything. The black-haired boy, the leader of the 3rd squad of Imperial Knights, and the wielder of the demonic blade, Khaled Asdon. The captain orders these bastards arrested. The main character thought that he was the unluckiest man in the world. When the girl went outside, Shamor asked if she was hurt, and the gentleman wondered she must have been very surprised. The main character assures that everything is fine, and then suggests waiting a minute. The young lady looked out into the street and thought that he had already left, and she felt her strength return. Shamor asks the lady if she should see a doctor, and says she doesn't understand how she let those robbers take her hostage. Inez assures her that everything is fine, and suggests that they go because they need to see other places. She thought about making sure that her abilities have returned. The main character says that they are going to the hippodrome. In the evening, lying on the sofa, the girl tells that the horse number 6 won the competition. However, no one bet on it, and she bought 100 tickets. The girl reports that when she said this, everyone clicked their tongues, because they only bet on horses with a high chance of winning, saying that she knows nothing about racing. The interlocutor claims that anyone in their place would have done the same. While watching the results, the main character heard that the man had bet all his money and lost, and he envied the girl who had bought 100 tickets and bet on horse number 6. Inez says that she heard everything and even whispers, but suddenly screaming says that the ability disappeared again, and she does not understand who would have thought that it would return only in a day. The girl reflects on the fact that if she thinks about it yesterday, her abilities returned after touching Khaled Asdon, and she thinks that she needs to find out about this man. The lady made inquiries that he is the eldest son of Marquee Asdon and the owner of the demonic sword, and he is the commander of the 3rd squad of Imperial Knights, and also he is single and does not have a lover. This guy comes from an orphanage, and the Marquis family adopted him, and after a few years they got their own child, but nevertheless he is the successor of Marquis Asdon. Asdon was vice-captain of the 1st squad of Imperial Knights, but later demoted to the 3rd squad, and according to his fellow soldiers, he has a nasty character. Inez read that he had a nickname, and he was called a bloodthirsty killer, and he has a terrible reputation in society, and so he was chosen by the demonic sword, Tigrios, and being the owner of such a blade, he died a year later. The main character believes that with such a fate, it is a sin not to be a scumbag, and she understands that in life, there are no ups and downs, and they will all rest in the ground. And since the fact that he was chosen by the demonic sword is proof of his unhappy life, the demon sword, Tigrios, which cut down the sacred tree, appears once per cycle, and choose your master. The owners of the sword were people of different status and nationality. However, the only thing that connected them was that they lost their minds exactly a year after the sword fell into their hands. Therefore, when the owner of the sword appears, the paladins are sent out of the temple, and when the time comes, they deliver the owner of the demonic blade to the temple. The time is different for each owner, but among all of them, no one was delivered to the temple. In other words, Kalada Asdon has a limited lifespan. The young lady realizes that he has about half a year, and at that time she smiled and asked who she was sympathizing with now. Inez thinks that she needs to meet Khaled Asdon first. However, she understands that his movement home and work, and she understands that meeting him is quite problematic. The girl thinks she needs to make sure once, but she understands that there is almost no chance to meet him. She says that since there is no chance, she needs to create it herself. The lady reads that, according to the report, Kala D visits her favorite gun shop every first Wednesday of the month, and she decided to go to that shop. The girl realizes that she feels a little awkward in a strange store. That's why she bought a gun shop, and she thinks that if she waits for him here, he will come himself. The servant asks the mistress if she needs anything. She says that everything is fine and suggests that he go about his business. The servant says that then they will be in the forge, and if she needs anything, then let her speak. Inez thinks that who would have thought that at first they would be awkward, but after a while they got used to it, and she wants to look at them. The employee asks if she will fire them. He also asks if it is possible to leave work on time. At this time, the main character thought that she just gave them what they deserved, and thinks that the previous owner must have been a real scumbag. The girl looked at the sign and thought that she would change it later because she thought it was tasteless, and leave it until Khaled came, and she thought he would come soon. After a while, a gentleman with black hair enters the store. The girl greets him. He looks at her in surprise, but says nothing. Inez says that if he is looking for the old owner, then she has recently taken over the management of the shop. Khaled gives the lady a sword and asks if she will fix it. At this time, she thinks that she has found her luck. At this time, the gentleman thought that he had come early to eat the special stew, but it was sold out right in front of his nose. And the main character looked at the guy and didn't understand why they called him a bloodthirsty killer. Inez thinks that if she looks too long, he might get embarrassed, and she thinks that they should get closer first. The girl says that they have a queue of orders, so it will take 2 days to complete his orders. However, the lady asks if he is that young man. The guy objects and says no. Hearing this, she does not understand why and what kind of denial of the obvious, and she thinks that she cannot be wrong, and she also wonders how he dared to forget her. The girl reminds him that she was one of those taken hostage during the bank robbery, and then thanks him for helping her out then. The lady says that there was no opportunity then, and therefore she did not have time to give him her business card. She says that her name is Inez Eldrin. The young master says that he will come for the sword in 2 days. At this time, the girl does not understand how he can just up and leave, and she does not want to let him go so easily. The main character realizes that she wanted to bring this up later, and then asks if she can help him with his misfortunes. He asks what her goal is, and also wonders if she does all this for money. Inez looks at the guy and says that after his words, one would think that she is a terrible person, and then she says that she has a lot of money. The girl offers the gentleman to bend over, and then says that she will tell him about the misfortunes that will befall him in the future if he accepts her offer. Khaled objects and says, quite well. She says that if he wants to try the stew, he should come to the establishment 10 minutes earlier than usual. Hearing this, the young gentleman was surprised. The young lady said that if he changed his mind, he could come at any time, and she would wait for him. Shamor, sitting in the carriage, asks Mrs. Inez if he is so important to her that she even ordered an investigation and bought a gun shop. The girl replies that of course he is her goose that lays golden eggs. Seeing the surprised face of her assistant, the lady smiled. The lady says that after meeting this man, her strength returned, and because of this, she feels even happier. Shamor says that she will take care of Mr. Khalida, Asdon. Hearing this, the protagonist thought that she liked her straightforwardness. Shamor is the only one who knows about Inez's ability, except for her maternal grandfather and younger brother. Inez took her under her wing after the girl was banished from her family and she became a mercenary. The lady asks if there are any letters for her. The assistant gives her a letter, and the girl says that this is another viewing. And at that time, she thought that she is tired of this because she needs to earn money and does not understand where to find time for dates. The main character believes that the more money she has, the better off she is alone, because she understands that money can attract parasites. Inez reflects on the difficulty of having business partners impose their relatives on you. She thinks she should find a fiance to cover up. The main character understands that not just anyone will do this role, because she needs someone who is not interested in her and who can keep his mouth shut, and at the same time, the chosen one must be famous and very capable. The lady suggests that Shamor tell her how things are going there with the beauty industry, which she asked to find out about. Since she believes that she has found a way to regain her powers, she needs to focus on work. 3 days later, Lady doesn't understand why Khalid didn't come, and she thinks that she tried to use his misfortune as an excuse to meet, and she doesn't understand who would have thought that he wouldn't come. The girl thinks she needs to push him harder. She thought it would be easy, but her ability is becoming unstable, and she thinks she will disappear again tomorrow. The main character thought that it turns out she will have to visit him at home. The assistant tells the lady that she brought the letters that came to her. Among the letters, the main character saw a red envelope and understands that it is used for a proposal of marriage or negotiations about marriage. Inez asks if she has sorted them, yet Shaman replies that she brought them because she thought she might be interested. The main character opened the envelope and was surprised because it was from the Khalida family. The lady turns to her assistant and tells her to get ready, as they are going to the viewing. At this time in the mansion, the gentleman screaming says that they moved the statue to the left and wiped the dust, and his wife says that they cut the roses in the garden. And at this time, preparations for the meeting are very intensively underway. The Marquis doesn't understand where he disappeared to. At the most important moment, the second son of the Marquis de Hut, Asdon, apologizes and explains that he was tidying himself up. Mom asks if he's ready enough. The boy replies that he is, and asks if they really should have called his brother. The Marquis asks if it would not be better to show a family in which harmony reigns. De Hut says that today is an important day, and he is worried that his brother has not spoiled it. At this time, Khalid looked at him and said that he was a vile bastard. The head of the family says that if they marry Eldrin, they will finally gain political influence, and Mom wonders if the dowry should be huge. The parents are thinking that it would be a good idea to use them for a political fund. Father says he heard that Count Eldrin is vacationing outside the city, and his younger brother is studying at the academy. The woman says that it turns out that Lady Eldrin lives alone in a huge mansion, and she thinks that they can move into Count Eldrin's mansion. The son asks if there is a need for this, and he thinks that a new Asdon mansion can be built with the dowry. The Marquise says that she has not thought about this, and says, as expected from her smart son. At this time, Khalid thought that he was very tired of these conversations. Sitting in the carriage, the main character thinks that it must be about Dehan Asdon, and she did not think that her younger brother would continue to negotiate her marriage. Inez thinks that he didn't know that she was refusing without reading the letters, but she understands that, thanks to him, she had the opportunity to meet Khalid, and she thinks that this time she definitely needs to convince him. The servant informs the master that the lady has arrived, and then he offers her his hand to help her out of the carriage. At this time, the main character thought that Khalid was standing so far away because he believed that he had a bad relationship with his family because he was adopted. The lady thought that he had no idea that she would come. The boy with black hair thought that now he understood why her name Eldrin seemed familiar to him, and he remembered that he saw the girl in the weapons shop. Father Deehat addresses Lady Eldrin and says that it is a great honor for him to meet her. He greets the lady and says that she is welcome to the residence of Marquee Asdon. The Marquise asks if she must be tired from the journey. At this time, the main character thought that he is the type who continues to insist on marriage, no matter how many times she has refused, and therefore this irritates him the most. However, now she is grateful to him. The main character approaches the second son and thanks him for the invitation, and then says that her name is Inez Eldrin. He kisses her hand, and at that time she read his thoughts about how Lady Eldrin refused him. The girl thought that this was so obvious that it wasn't even surprising. The Marquis says that this young man is his eldest son, and he is sure that she has heard of him. Deehat says that if she is not happy, the girl objects and explains that she is happy to meet such a famous person. Then she extends her hand to him, and he kisses her too. The lady says she is glad to meet you, and at that moment, she reads his thoughts, that he is surprised because he does not understand how this happened, and he does not understand how the engagement with Lady Eldrin will take place. Inez wondered why he was unhappy about being engaged to her, because he thought it was like winning the lottery, but the guy turned around and walked away, and she wondered if this was normal at all. The Marchioness invites the lady to sit down, and when they sat down, the lady was surprised because Khaled was sitting far from them. The Marchioness turns to the lady and asks if it can be read that she has arrived personally with a positive attitude to the marriage negotiations. Hearing this, the main character thought that they had gotten straight to the point, and then she answers that it is true. The lady explains that she is not only saying this because it is about her son, because she thinks that he is a really worthy groom. Deehat even composed a song about how he wants to marry the lady. The Marchioness says that in that case they should immediately move on to the topic of engagement, and asks what date would be best. Inez says that she would like to discuss something first. The ladies were surprised to hear this, and wondered if she really wanted to bring up the topic of marriage. Dihar says that since they are on the same page, and suggests why not skip the engagement and go straight to the wedding. He says that if the lady doesn't mind, then he would like to marry her now. The main character says that she would like to get engaged, not to him, but to his brother, the unluckiest man in the world, Khaled Asdon. As his nickname suggests, he lived a life of misery. He was abandoned at the door of an orphanage immediately after birth. Although he was lucky enough to be adopted a few years later, his adoptive parents had a son. As a result, he spent his childhood almost alone, and every day was like a battle. While eating, while walking, even while going to sleep, Khaled had to be constantly on guard. In all his years of misfortune, he had learned humility. However, the one thing he could not let go of was his sword. Khaled enjoyed fencing, so he decided to fight against adversity, and with blood and sweat, he earned a place in the squad of Imperial Knights. However, misfortune seemed to have decided to laugh at him, and they imposed a heavy fate on the young man. The demonic sword, Tigrios, chose its owner, the owner of the magical blade, by pure chance, after which he was immediately sentenced to a limited life. At that moment, the fate of the unfortunate man was predetermined. A young man was betrayed by the one he trusted most, and he was dishonest. He was followed everywhere by looks of contempt and fear, and his fate was to live for only a year. And then, one day after he accepted this fate, the guy did not even hope to hear that someone wanted to marry him. The Marchioness asks the lady if she is saying that she does not want to marry Deehat. She asks if she heard right. The girl explains that she heard everything correctly, and she is talking about Khaled Asdon, with whom she would like to become engaged. The young man with black hair looked at the girl in surprise, and he thought that he had met a very strange woman. The Marquise asks, crying out, if she has not heard rumors about him, and then he says that he can bring her misfortune. The lady says that she knows this very well. Inez says that this is why she wants him to be her fiance, because she likes misfortune. A girl approaches a guy and asks if he could spare her a minute. When they go for a walk, The lady asks the young man if he is too far away for conversation. Then she comes closer to him and says that nothing can be done about it. Khaled asks the lady why she came to his house and also wonders what other engagement there could be. The main character asks why he didn't come to the gun shop and explains that she was waiting for him. The lady asks if he got to try that special stew. Hearing this, the guy remembered that the saleswoman, smiling, said that he was incredibly lucky since this was the last stew. Khaled tells the lady not to change the subject. She suggests they walk and talk for a while because he wants to hear the reason why she came. Inez asks if he could have a lover. The young man is surprised and says why she is asking. She claims that if he does not answer, she will think for him. The guy answers that he does not have a lover. The girl says that's great, and then asks if he wants to date her, and then explains that more accurately pretending to date her. The main character claims that she is not eager to get married. However, everyone around her wants her to tie the knot. The lady explains that she does not like to live up to other people's expectations. Therefore, she would like him to pretend to be her lover. The guy asks, why him? The lady explains that his eyes are beautiful and that they are her favorite color. She says that it is not only that, because he fits all the criteria. Inez says that besides, she doesn't think he's delighted with her, and she thinks it would be very unpleasant if the false lover actually fell in love with her. The girl says that she can also give him what he needs. Then she asks if he doesn't want to live a normal life. Khaled asks if she knows what he did to avoid this misfortune. And despite trying all the methods and means, nothing worked. He asks how the hell she will help him. The guy claims that if she gets involved with him, bad luck will befall her, and asks if she doesn't want to die. The young lady says, who knows, and asks if maybe she is not like everyone else. In the evening when Khaled was changing in his room, the sword remembered today and thought that today was fun. And it was funny for him to look at the upset D-hat and thinks that he would always mock him. The guy says he's shut up. The sword says that's cruel and says that the young lady is clearly not all there and thinks that no one would have guessed that she would propose a fictitious relationship. Sword says that he finds it funny even from one of her phrases about love to misfortune. At this time, the young man thought that if he could refuse it, it would have been sawed away somewhere in a warehouse long ago. The sword asks the owner if he will accept the offer, since he thinks it would be a good idea to have a lover and get rid of misfortunes. Khaled says he will refuse. Sword asks why. The young gentleman says that she is the daughter of a count and is so rich and beautiful that she even embarrassed Marquis Asdon and his wife. And he, as the Marquis's eldest son, is the owner of a demonic blade, who, according to rumors, is unhappy and mortally ill. The guy says that no matter how I look at it, there is no benefit for Inez. And besides, he doesn't think she is delighted with him, and he thinks there must be another reason, because his lifespan is limited, and so he doesn't want to hope for anything again. Khaled thinks she might be lying. Blade says he trusts no one anymore. The guy remembers that the girl told him that he might feel awkward about such a proposal, and she gives him some time to think about it, but he should keep in mind that she won't be able to wait forever. Blade says he thinks she has some kind of ability. The next day, the main character, sitting in her mansion, rereads the newspapers. She thought that this was great, since she had regained her ability, albeit temporarily, but had already managed to conclude several deals. And soon, after all these investments began to bear fruit, and the girl realizes that several days have passed since she visited Marquis Asdon. The main character reflects on the fact that in fact at first she did not even plan anything like this, and she wondered if there was a better candidate for a false lover than him. Inez believes that this young man has the appropriate status, in addition to being the eldest son in the family and having no power, and the fact that she is not interesting to him also plays a role. The girl believes that there needs to be a reason to meet more often, and she understands that being a couple is the most convenient way to do this. The main character understands that, on the other hand, his reputation leaves much to be desired, and on top of that, he owns a demonic blade. and she does not understand why the temple left him unattended for a year. Inez believes that as long as she can make money, nothing else matters. The girl ponders the fact that judging by the fact that he has not yet received an answer, he plans to refuse the offer, and she decides that in this case, she needs to explain why he will have to accept her offer. The lady recalls that the misfortune she saw when she met Hat is that the Eldrin family filed a lawsuit against her. Inez thinks she'll have to wait a little longer, but she knows that once the news gets out, he won't be able to refuse. The assistant comes into the girl's office and asks to be allowed in. She is holding a whole box of letters in her hands, and then she explains that all these letters arrived today. Seeing this, the female protagonist is surprised and says that this is more than usual. Shamor says that she thinks this is all because of the rumors that have been spreading around the capital. She explains that the rumors are that the mistress is engaged to the owner of the demonic sword. Hearing this, Inez thought that it was timely. The assistant explains that many letters have come in asking whether the rumors are true, and then she says that she has sorted them out. At this time, the main character thought that everything had turned out better than ever, and she believes that it would be better if this were reality. Shamor gives an envelope and says that this letter is from the Count. Hearing this, the lady asks in surprise if it is from the grandfather. The young lady reads that they are interested in how she is doing here, and so it seems to her that he has begun to feel much better, and if all goes well, he will return within a year. Shamor, hearing this, says that it is a relief, and the lady asks her if a letter came from Halo. The assistant reminds that she received it 2 days ago. The girl says that exactly 2 whole days have passed, and she has been waiting for the letter all this time. Shamor says that there was none yet. At that time, the girl thought about her kind and sweet brother, Hilo Eldrin, who looked after her since childhood. And after the death of their mother, they began to rely on each other more. The main character reflects that she has never met anyone nicer than her brother, and she remembers that one day, Halo was walking around the garden on tiptoe, and when the girl asked what was wrong with him, and more precisely, she asked why he was doing that, the boy then replied that he was afraid that he would accidentally step on an ant. And then she thought that he was a real angel, and of course, she thinks so now. The assistant says that she is right, and says that in any case he will be surprised when he finds out about it, and thinks that there is something to be surprised about. Inez says she will explain at the next meeting. The assistant says she wants to see about the beauty industry market research she requested. The main character heard a knock on the door and said that she could come in. The butler tells the lady that a message has arrived from the academy. He says that there was a fight with the young gentleman. The surprised lady asks who dared to touch him, but the servant objects and says that on the contrary, they say the young gentleman beat up his opponent. Suddenly, a boy enters the office and screams, asking his sister if she is really getting married. Priscilla Academy, a prestigious academy where talents from all over the empire flock, but even there, where outstanding figures in all fields gathered, there was one outstanding one, Hilo Eldrin. The guy with the silver hair was the one who scored the highest when he entered. The boys said among themselves that he was one of the Eldrin family, and also that he looked like an angel, and they thought that he was kind and a fellow. Half a year ago, Hilo says he doesn't want to go, then asks what he should do if his friends tease him for getting into the academy so late. Inez suggests that he just tell her, and she will sort it out. The boy asks if he won't have to live in the dorm. Then he says that he won't be able to sleep anywhere except in his room. Sister says she will do everything to make it look like his room. Hilo says he heard tuition is expensive. Hearing this, the main character is surprised and asks if he wants to study all his life. And then she says that even if it were so, he would do it without spending even a small part of her savings. In the end, the boy was forced to enroll in the academy and live away from his sister. When he heard rumors that his sister was getting married and to the owner of the demonic blade, he thought it was nonsense and was sure that it was just rumors. Halo thinks that this can't be, since his sister said that she wasn't going to get married, and he thinks that it wouldn't hurt to see for himself. But he can't leave the academy, and the holidays are far away, and he's already used up all his time off. A boy with blonde hair turns to Hale and tells him to give this letter to Mrs. Inez, but only with all due respect. The surprised boy asks why he should give her this trash. Halo asks the guy who he thinks he is, since he dares to call his sister by her first name. Then he tells him that he's such a lousy guy that he shouldn't even mention her. The blonde guy explains that he just asked her to deliver a letter and asks how he could be so rude. Halo wonders if he would allow such a worthless person to come near his sister. The guy says that even if people call him a genius, his character is the worst, and that's why he sympathizes with Mrs. Inez to have such a brother. Hearing this, Hilo looked at the boy angrily. The boy with blonde hair asks if he wants to hit him, and then asks if he doesn't know that violence is prohibited in the academy, and he says that for such a thing he can be suspended. The boy with silver hair asks if he is saying that he might be suspended. He also asks if he will be sent home if he is suspended from school. A boy with blonde hair, surprised, asks what he wants to do. Then he sees a fist that is pointed at his face and screams, asking for help. The principal says that there is no place for violence within the walls of their academy. And then he says that they have to suspend him from classes for a while so that he can think about his behavior. He tells the boy to think about it at home. Hearing this, Mr. Eldrin thanked the director. Halo says that at the time he thought it was all just rumors, but when he returned to the capital, that was all everyone was talking about. The boy asks his sister if she is really getting married. The lady asks how he knew. The brother replies that he heard at the academy that she wants to marry the owner of the demon blade. The girl says what can be said here, and then says that of course these are rumors, and says that she plans to have a lover, not a husband. Inez, the boy, asks, does he understand? Hearing this, Hilo says that now he understands what is going on. The sister explains that she does not intend to start a serious relationship, but she just needs this person. The brother asks if this means that once her powers return, she will break up with him. She replies that he is right. The boy apologizes for yelling. Then he explains that he was so surprised when he heard the news. The young lady reports that she too was barely able to resist going to the academy when she heard that he had gotten into a fight and was asking if he had been suspended from classes. Halo says that there is one guy who always insults their family. Upon hearing this girl says that she knew her brother was not a bad boy. The young gentleman says that no matter how much he is offended, he understands that he should not have resorted to violence. Hearing this, the main character smiles and asks how such a kind person could appear in such a cruel world. She asks if he punched her and wonders if she should call a doctor because his arm might hurt. He replies that everything is fine because he hit her lightly. The girl suggests that next time he just tell her everything and assures that his sister will sort everything out and he won't have to use his fists. He agrees with her. Inez says that since there are already long lines of people waiting to dine at restaurants, and there aren't many of them, she wonders if she should build a new one. Brother says that everything is fine, and he will still advance to the next grade early and will soon graduate, and then asks his sister if she had any problems on the other side. Hearing this, the main character thought about what that side meant. It was about Marquee Herbert and his new family. She replies that everything is fine and there were no problems, and then asks how he is doing. Halo says that he is also doing well. Since he is studying at the academy, they hardly ever collide. At this time, the main character looked at her brother, and she does not understand who is trying to get close to him. She wondered if this could be Marquee Herbert or her father's illegitimate child. The girl thought that maybe her half-sister had joined the Marquee Herbert's family, and she thought that she would need to find out about everything later. Shamor is informed by Mrs. Inez that a message has arrived from the guards. They say that the jewels that were stolen some time ago have been found and the bait has been swallowed. The main character apologizes and tells her brother that she needs to leave for a while. He asks where she is going. The sister replies that she is going to see her future lover. At this time, Kalada had a dream that he was standing under a tree and a girl was approaching him. However, after that he woke up and thought that he had had this dream again. Blade asks in surprise why the owner woke up so early. Then he says that he thinks the weather is fine today and asks, how about Togo, going to that young lady? When the gentleman read the newspapers, it was written everywhere that Inez was a rich girl and an enviable bride. Blade says that she must really be rich, and he thinks that it is a 1 in a million chance. The sword asks when he will have another chance to receive an offer from such a person, and then tells him to leave the nightly squad and run to her. Khaled says he has to leave for work soon. When the young master left the mansion, the foster parents turned to him and said that Dihad, he asked what had happened. Mother said that she thought Dihad had gotten into trouble. The Marquis explains that their little boy has been depressed lately. He drank heavily and met a guy. He did the man a favor, but when he arrived at the appointed place, he met only guards, and they made him hand over a precious stone stolen from the Eldrin family. The woman says her son is going to take responsibility. Khaled says he has to go to work. The Marquis says they sent a man to the Imperial palace and therefore suggests not to worry. The guy asks, surprised, what they are talking about. The father explains that they have taken sick leave, so he has to take care of Dihat's case today. The Marchioness asks if Lady Eldrin has not visited him. Then she says that if he had asked her, she would have been lenient about it. The guy replies that he has nothing to do with Lady Eldrin. And then he says that he is going to work. His father asks if he means to say that work is more important than family, and his mother asks if that's how they raised him. At this time, the young man thought that only at such moments are they a family, and he understands that he was never treated as a member of the family. The Marquis asks if he wants to be kicked out of the family. Hearing this, the boy thought that if he was kicked out of his family, he would have to leave the Order of Imperial Knights, in which only representatives of the nobility serve, and he understands that if he refuses the position of captain, he will have nothing left. Khaled says he'll try, but he's not sure Lady Eldrin will listen to him. Blade says he is crazy and nothing else, and thinks Dihat is an idiot. The young master says he will solve the problem and go to work right away. When Khaled arrives, the guard asks him who he is. He shows the knight's badge and says that he is Dihat Asdonov. The knight bids him enter. At this time, Dihat screaming claims that he was untied. He asks if they know who he is, and when he sees his older brother, he asks if his parents sent him. Dihat asks why he is staring, and then tells him that he is a victim. The brother says that as the commander of the knights, he must resolve this quickly, since he wants to return home. Hearing this, Khaled smiled, and at that moment Lady Eldrin came to them. Seeing her, the guy thought that in any case, she did not look like a person who had something important stolen. The captain realized it was a trap, since she had used Dihat to lure him out. Dihat turns to Lady Eldrin and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. The girl says she never thought they would meet like this. The guy claims he is innocent. The lady asks, despite the fact that they have come to the scene of a deal involving stolen goods from their families. Dihat explains that he was asked for a favor and did not know what the thing was. Inez asks if there is anyone in this world who agrees to fulfill a request without checking the goods, and then says that only an idiot. The lady suggests that they first sit down and talk. At this time, the sword tells its master that she lays the bed well. The lady says that the jewels he stole are worth over 2 million prules. After examining them, she found several scratches. Dihat was surprised to hear this, and then informed that he would serve her. Then, to pay her back, he asked the lady to accept his feelings, as he still thinks only of her. At this point, Khaled thought that this was madness, and wondered if he should give brother a slap on the back of the head. He remembered the girl's words about how she wanted him to pretend to be her lover. The captain understands that he has no other choice, because if he does not achieve mercy, he will simply be thrown out of the family. Deepening says that he is confident that he can be a great husband. Khalad thinks that he may not get the chance, and then tells his brother to shut up. He says that such disrespectful behavior is unacceptable. The captain thought about punching D-Hat, who couldn't come to his senses even in such a situation. The brother tells him not to bother him, and then asks why he should listen to him. Khaled replies that it is because he is Lady Eldrin's lover. The young lady says that when her lover is treated like this, her mood gets spoiled. D-Hat was surprised to hear this. Inez said that she would be lenient, but only because he was there. D-Hat screamed and said that he was not her lover. She asked if he had forgotten the reason for her visit to the Asdon mansion. The lady recalls that it was then that they decided to date, keeping in mind the idea of engagement. D-Hat is surprised and says that there was no agreement on the topic of engagement. The girl reflects on the fact that everything ended with Khalad rejecting her proposal. Inez says that in that case, they have nothing more to discuss, and she is already leaving D-Hat screaming offers to give him a minute. The lady says that if something like this happens again, they will meet in court. When the lady went outside, the captain followed her. He asked if she had set it all up. The main character asks why, and then explains that she simply knew in advance what his brother was going to do, and took advantage of it. Hearing this, the guy asks how she knew about it in advance. One lady remained silent in response, and then she says that she has a special skill, and she sees the misfortune that can happen to the person she touches. Surprised, Khalad asks if such an ability exists in the world. The lady asks if he is their ability expert. Then she tells him that if he wants, she can tell him more. The girl says that since he called her lover, it means that he accepted her offer. Inez explains that she suffered because of this ability. Since her parents did not believe her, they stayed away thinking that she would bring them trouble. The main character says that it is not normal to see other people's misfortunes, and at that time she thought about how sympathy or a sense of belonging is not important if you rely on them too much. And then she says that this is why she decided to live alone without getting married. Inez says that being alone at such an age is difficult, and asks if he finds any truth in her words, and explains that on the other hand, her lover cannot become just anyone. The Duchess says she felt she could share her secret with him because she believed their destinies were similar. The young man says yes, nevertheless, and then asks if the terms are too favorable for him. At this time, the main character thought that, of course, from an objective point of view, this is true. But for her, it is luck, and she knows that she cannot tell him about it because she considers him a goose that lays golden eggs. The girl reflects on the fact that if she knew that her powers would only return after a contract with Khalad, she could have taken the initiative. Inez says that she does something that does not bring her money, and then she opens her umbrella. The guy asks what she is doing, but suddenly he understands that she wants to hint to him with this. The guy tells her that he will become her fake lover, and then he takes an umbrella. Shamor tells the lady that she will catch a cold. The girl says that she does not think that they will be able to finish the conversation here, and asks how about continuing it at her house, since she thinks that they will discuss all the details there. At this time, Hilo punches the blanket and screams, asking how Khalad Asdon dared to become his sister's lover. The boy reflects on the fact that even though she said it was a fake relationship, it wasn't with him, and he thinks that it must have been love at first sight, and he thinks that he has more enemies again. Halo says it's hard for him to protect his sister from that woman and the old man. Marquee Herbert eventually got divorced, and he feels sorry for the Marquis, and he doesn't understand how the hell a daughter from a mistress can be older than her own son. However, it turns out that the daughter and son from his wife live with the Marquis. The boy believes that they have entered the family of Count Eldrin, his wife's father, and he reflects on the fact that since they have gone under the wing of his wife's parents, he wonders if they have enough money to live. But they say that the Count is on the verge of bankruptcy because of his wife's actions. This is all because of the businesslike temperament of Marquee Herbert. However, the Marquise's affairs are going well, and his illegitimate daughter has gained status and money. Ronnie Herbert writes that she is so glad that she has a younger brother and offers to be friends. She writes that he can come to the academy, but only if he does not tell his sister Inez about it. The boy understands that in any case, this is not the main thing. Now I believes that before returning to the academy, he needs to deal with Khaled Asdon. Halo ponders that God knows what this guy, the most unlucky person in the world, could do to his sister. Even though she said she would break up with him after her ability returned, he thinks he needs to figure out how to get her power back as soon as possible. The boy hugs a soft teddy bear and wants to make his sister break up with this guy as soon as possible. Inez writes to the gentleman that she felt she could share her secret with him because she believes their fates are similar. The main character says that she didn't think he would agree so easily, and she thinks that maybe it's an emotional connection, and she also wonders if she's confident in her abilities. The girl thinks that in any case, she is glad that he agreed because she did not have to use blackmail. And besides, she did not lose money because she had replaced the jewelry with a fake in advance. Inez believes that this will be beneficial for both of them. She will get her powers back and Khaled Asdon will avoid disaster. The most miserable man in the whole wide world, and a woman who can foresee trouble. The girl thinks that this is the perfect couple. The girl wondered why Khaled became the heir of the Asdon house. She ponders the fact that even though he and his eldest son established him, the Asdon couple is indifferent to him. Shamor turns to the lady and says that as she requested, they have identified the people who contacted young Master Halo, and among them was Ronnie Herbert, who sent the letter. Hearing this, the main character asks for what purpose. The assistant replies that they haven't figured it out yet. The girl asks if she's crazy. Then she says she needs to meet Ronnie Herbert. Shamor says that's why she brought the invitation. Then she tells him that Countess Bridget is hosting a tea party today, and on the guest list is Ronnie Herbert. Inez tells her to cancel all plans for today. The maid turns to Miss Bridget and says that a message has arrived in response to her invitation to tea. Hearing this, the mistress asks if it is not strange that it should arrive so late. The maid explains that the message came from Lady Inez from the house of Count Eldrin. Miss Bridget was surprised to hear this and then told them to send a reply letter immediately. Sitting in the carriage, the main character remembers how many years have passed since their last meeting. Ronnie Herbert says she's so glad she has a sister, then asks if she can call her sister. Inez remembers that she smiled so innocently, as if she did not know about her parents' circumstances. And when she looked at the table, she said that it was very tasty and that she had never seen anything like it before. The main character believes that she pretended to be pathetic and even gained sympathy from the servants. Well, she understands that it was all just a game, because she doesn't believe that she ate for the first time, and it makes her laugh, and she knows how much money her father stole then. Inez knows that her sister spent their mother's money so extravagantly, and after her expulsion, she settled in the mansion and pestered her and Halo. Ronnie holding the box in her hands. She says that she thought that her sister also received a gift from her father, and so she decided to share. The main character understands that she wanted to show, with all her appearance, that this piece of shit loves her. The girl believes that she is one of those people who lies in order to sow discord between rivals. But as soon as the conversation turns to her, she immediately shows her true appearance. Inez asks the assistant that this year Ronnie celebrated her coming of age. She replies that last month. Hearing this, the main character wonders if so much time has really passed. The main character remembers that she learned that her mother had fallen ill after she was banished back to the Eldrin household. She had returned under the Count's wing, and so she had no time to worry about Ronnie because she had to worry about her family and money. The girl says that she is still as angry as she was then and thinks that time doesn't seem to heal all wounds. The reason why she didn't touch Ronnie is not because she forgave her, but because she was just waiting for the moment and doesn't understand who would have thought that she would get involved with Halo. The main character thinks that she should be given a warning At this point, the ladies who came to tea are wondering if it is true that Mrs. Inez will be attending today's events. Ronnie says that she thought she did not attend such events. Miss Bridget says she too was surprised to receive the message this morning. At this time, Inez comes up to them and asks if she is late. Miss Bridget says that she is not late and invites her to come closer. The main character thanks for the invitation. Ronnie turns to her sister and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. The hostess of the tea party invites the lady to sit next to her. At this time, Ronnie deliberately pushes the mug with her hand, which falls to the floor and breaks. She apologizes and says that it happened because of her mistake. Miss Bridget suggests waiting a minute, as the tablecloth and chairs will be replaced immediately. Inez says no, because she will sit somewhere else. And then she sits down on another chair and says that this is the angle from which the lady's profile can be seen best. The Marquise says that she is glad if that is the case. Then she says that she did not know that the lady would join them, and she claims that she is dreaming. Miss that they write so much about her in the newspapers, and thinks Inez is a wonderful woman, and also asks what perfume she uses, and her hair looks so well groomed. Hearing this, Ronnie says that she has heard so much about Sister, and is glad that her business is going well. And then she says that she also heard that Audrey's ship sank, and she invested so much money in it, and asks what she will do now. Ronnie tells him that she was so worried about her, because she thinks that she must be upset, and then asks how about Togo investing in the Tillet ship next time, because her father invested and made a good profit. Sister says she wanted to share information with her and with everyone gathered here. The main character says, "What can you say?" and then says that she has never invested huge amounts. Upon hearing this, the girl says in surprise that 5 million prules were invested in the ship. Inez asks if 5 million is a big sum and says that she even forgot about it until the lady reminded her. Hearing this, Ronnie thought that for 5 million, she could buy a mansion with a garden. And if it was a small amount, she wondered how much money she had. And then she said that she was happy for her. And since they were members of the same family, she should call her Ronnie. After all, the lady's treatment was too cruel for her sister. The main character says that she never had sisters and doesn't even have a father. Upon hearing this, the girl says that her father will be upset if he hears something like this. Inez turns to the lady and says that from the point of view of the law, Marquee Herbert is a stranger to her, and at that moment, she thought that the man, worse than an animal, not only deceived everyone but also stole his wife's property, and also kept the children in his house, so as not to pay alimony. The main character says that he was deprived of parental rights due to non-payment of alimony, because he claimed that he had nothing to pay with, and therefore she does not think that it was a lie. Hearing this, Ronnie asks if she is being too harsh about her father. Inez then says that even if she continues to talk, he is not her father, and they say that even animals take care of their young, and therefore she cannot consider someone worse than an animal as her father. The surprised girl says that she just wanted to be friends with family members, and then says that even if she has another mother, a sister, and high-low, and she so wanted to have a younger brother who looked like an angel. Hearing this, the main character thought that it wasn't even funny. She wondered why she had contacted Halo without his knowledge. She believed that Ronnie always wanted to take the best for herself. The Duchess thought that Sister wanted to play with Halo like a doll, and she thought that if the situation arose again, then Halo would have to be sent to that house. Inez turns to the lady and says that if she wants to play family, she should go somewhere else, and then says that if he finds out again that she is sending letters to Hilo again, even she herself does not know what she will do with her. The Duchess apologizes and then explains that since the situation is as it is, she thinks she should go first. A surprised Miss Bridget says there is nothing she can do. The main character says that the tea prepared by the lady was incredibly delicious, and she, in turn, would like to invite her to her place, and then asks if she doesn't mind. Miss Bridget replies that she will look forward to the invitation with impatience. The main character says that in that case, she will go, and at that moment, she thought about the rather amusing misfortune that has befallen Ronnie. That night, Khalida had the same dream again. He was standing near a tree and saw the silhouette of a girl, and when he woke up, he thought it was a strange dream. A dream in which he was alone, waiting for a person he didn't even know. The guy understands that she spoke for the first time and thinks that even though he doesn't know anything, he always cries when he wakes up after this dream. The sword asks the owner if he is meeting this lady today. At this time, the young man thought about how she asked him to come. And since today is a day off, he has time. The guy thinks about how he still doesn't trust her and doesn't know what she wants from him. However, he is sure that he will soon be disappointed, since this has always been the case, and he decides therefore to simply play along until she gives in first. The sword tells the owner that he should not let this girl go under any circumstances, and when he came to the mansion, the sword offers him to live here because he thinks that this is a real paradise, and also offers that he sneaked in from time to time and pretended that he lives here. The guy tells him to shut up. Khalid reports that he has come to Lada Eldrin. A boy met him and explained that his sister had gone away. The young gentleman looked at him and thought that he was the younger brother. The captain thought it was strange because before leaving, he had sent a message and received a letter inviting him to visit the estate, and he thought that sometimes such things happen. He says that in that case, he will drop by next time. Halo objects and says, "No need," and suggests they chat until she gets back. At this time, the young gentleman thought that both his brother and his sister were birds of a feather, and they did not listen to anyone. The boy tells the master to treat himself to some tea. He takes a sip. The captain thinks that the tea is salty, and he assumes that the servant probably mixed up the sugar with the salt. However, he remembers that worse things have happened to him. At this time, Hilo looks at the guy who is drinking this tasteless tea in surprise and thought that he added salt instead of sugar on purpose. He asks if the gentleman knows that sister is quite popular. The boy says that he himself understands that there will be difficulties if they pretend to be lovers and then accidentally fall in love. Khalid assures that this will not happen. Hilo confidently says that it is precisely because he will always be in first place. Suddenly, a woman enters the room and asks what they are doing there. She turns to her brother and says that he is entertaining guests. The boy replies, "Yes." Inez asks what they talked about while she was gone. Then she turns to the guy and asks him if he thinks she has a cute little brother. At this time, the captain thought that he had done nothing. The girl tells her brother that he can go back to the room and rest. The main character says that she didn't expect him to arrive so quickly. Then she explains that she was away for a while on business, but as soon as she learned about the unofficial meeting with Hilo, she immediately returned. Khalid informs that he had sent the letter in advance. Hearing this, the girl says that there must have been a mix-up. At this point, the guy thought that he had received an answer and thought that there must have been some problem. The girl said that in any case, it was good that he had come. Inez suggests discussing what they couldn't talk about. Then, she explains that she just wants to clarify a few things and asks if he doesn't mind. Inez Eldrin and Khalid Asdon sign a contract and become a couple. The contract is valid for 1 year. This is the captain. He says that he knows that the year may not pass. The girl assures that for now they will stop at 1 year, and if neither side dies, they will simply extend it. And for the duration of the contract, it is forbidden to have other lovers, and everyone will do everything possible to maintain the appearance of a relationship. Inez Eldrin undertakes to bear all expenses, and Khalid Asdon undertakes to protect Inez from other men. The main character claims that a physical contract is only possible with mutual consent. And then she says that in some cases, it is possible to hold hands without prior consent. And finally, it is forbidden to have feelings for each other. The girl looks at the guy and tells him not to fall in love with her. He says he promises. She says great, and says if he doesn't want to add anything, they can sign. At this time, the main character thought that she should treat her Goose well, and then she gives him a pen so that he can sign the contract. When Inez touched the boy, she read a vision that the Goose would die in a week, and she thought that this was the end, and he finally couldn't live a normal life because the robbers got into his room at night and finished him off. The main character thought that she had hoped in vain. The couple asks separately what is wrong with her. The lady reports that she has just seen the misfortune that will befall him, and then reports that in a week assassins will break into his bedroom. Caleb puts on a confident face and says he understands. The girl asks why he is not surprised. He replies that this happens often. Hearing this, the main character wondered if the killers had already attacked him. The captain explains that after he became the owner of the demon's sword, the number of threats increased, and he is not sure if Ygriff's followers are involved. Ygriff, a deity worshipped by most countries on the continent. However, on this continent, it was rare to turn to another faith. It was all about the power of the high priest and the great temple and the divine power that could be seen with one's own eyes. This power is the gift that Ygfried gave to this land, the divine tree. This tree was so huge that it seemed to touch the sky. Its roots spread across all the lands of the continent. Therefore, when the tree blossomed and smelled, people gathered a good harvest, and when it withered, the harvest was poor. And on the days when the leaves dried up, epidemics broke out. The sacred tree was the embodiment of life, something that shared the fate of the people of the continent. However, the demonic sword, Tigrios, damaged the tree. Hearing this, the main character thought that now she understands why they are trying to kill Khalida. However, she does not understand why the temple will not take him. She thinks that for her, of course, it is good, but perhaps because Togo often received threats, he felt relief at death. Inez assures herself that he will not die until she fully returns his ability, and he will not be able to die even if he really wants to. The lady tells the guy not to worry because nothing will happen. Khaled asks the girl if she is afraid. Then he tells her that if she continues to get involved with him, she will sooner or later find herself in danger. The girl asks if he knows, and says that if she is in danger, then so is the empire. Inez reports that the empire's economy will collapse if its security is threatened, and the country will find itself in a very awkward position. The main character says that she has come up with about 10 ways to restore the killers, and asks if he wants to listen. The captain says that since he has a bad reputation, she will definitely hear something bad said about her. The lady says that no matter how badly she has been spoken of, it has not been a problem for her for a long time, because she believes that it is impossible to please everyone, and she says that no one else is spoken about as much as she is, and then asks if there are any more questions. The guy says no. The girl says that in that case, they will sign the papers. When he signs, she says that from now on, she relies on him. Inez says that since he is now her lover, he must drive away those who try to get close to her, and she believes that this is why they must seem like a real couple to others. The girl offers to buy rings. Khaled asks if it's too early for rings. She says that if they don't want to arouse suspicion, they'll have to. And she says that, to be honest, their relationship might come as a surprise to other people. At this time, the main character thought that it irritates her to constantly say that she already has a lover, and then she asks the guy how he is doing in acting. He replies that he has never tried. The girl says that then he has a great opportunity to practice now, and then suggests that he just repeat after her and he will succeed. Inez says they can't act like strangers while they're going to get the rings. Then she takes the boy's hand. When they enter the shop, the saleswoman greets Mrs. Eldrin with surprise. She says that the Duchess hasn't visited them for a long time. Then she asks if she is looking for something specific. The main character replies that she would like to look at the wedding rings. The saleswoman was surprised to hear this. The lady says that she needs paired rings, and therefore they must be of high quality. The saleswoman tells the lady that she will show her the new collection, and invites her to come up to her. She points her finger at the box and says that these are new models made very recently. The girl shows that these rings have been popular lately, and there is also a ring from a famous jeweler. At this time, the sword turns to the owner and says that he likes diamonds, and then he claims that he should take them because he thinks that the more the better, and also asks if he knows their price. Blade says that diamonds were worth a lot of money hundreds of years ago and will remain valuable even after his death, and he believes that even if they part, they will remain. And he claims that diamonds are a man's best friend. At this time, Khaled thought that it would be a good idea to sell the demonic sword to some junk dealer and buy a ring with the proceeds. The main character asks the captain what he thinks about this. He replies that he thinks it's not bad. The lady takes the ring and tries it on the guy's finger. The saleswoman says that if she wants, they can engrave it on the inside of the ring. She agrees. The consultant asks if she could name her chosen one. The lady says that he is Khalad Asdon. The girl with cinnamon hair is surprised to hear this, and the main character asks if she has any problems. The saleswoman suggests waiting a little, as they will do the engraving right away. While waiting for the rings, the main character asks the guy if he can try the drink. Khalad takes the glass of juice and then drinks it. The main character saw this and thought that he would put the glass back after one sip, and then she wondered if he really liked it. The lady decided to try this drink too, and when she took a sip, she realized that it was regular apple juice, and she ponders what it means that he likes apples. The consultant informs Mrs. Eldrin that the engraving is done, and then thanks her for choosing their jewelry store. Inez tells the guy that there is a journalist outside, and then says that when they go outside, he should put his arm around her shoulders. Going outside, the captain hugged the girl, and at that moment, she thought that this was great, because let everyone know, and she decided to announce it to the entire empire, so that no one would dare to bother her anymore about the fact that she had a lover. The emperor looks at the mug of tea and says that today's drink is her favorite magnolia tea, and then he asks the butler that he is waiting for the crown prince. He replies that the master has gone hunting. Son Emperor of the Empire of Jerez, Gerald asks for news. The servant replies that there are rumors that the Eldrin clan's eldest daughter intends to betroth herself to the wielder of the demon blade. Hearing this, His Majesty thought that he had already heard about this in the morning, and he believes that this family, which is discussed even in the Imperial Palace, and in a few years, they have gone from disgrace and ruin to shaking the entire empire. The emperor recalls that he was informed that the sword had appeared for the first time in 100 years, and he chose a member of the Order of Imperial Knights as his owner. Hearing this, His Majesty thought that this could not be, and he asked how the owner of the demonic sword could be a member of the Order of Imperial Knights, and he also did not understand how the protection of the imperial family could be entrusted to the one who was chosen by the cursed blade. The emperor says that he must be expelled immediately. However, the high priest says that Khalad Asdon will not leave the Order of the Imperial Knights, and this matter has already been decided. The high priest explains that Khalad should remain in the order, but if anything were to happen, the temple would take responsibility. He then says that he does not know the reason, but if all responsibility falls on the temple, then they have no reason to refuse the high priest's request for Khalad Asdon. The man says they will promote him from vice captain of the first squad to captain of the third squad. The emperor thought that since the third squad was operating outside the imperial palace, this decision was made to ensure his safety. His Majesty thought that he had heard this name countless times, and he thought that he must meet him someday, and he also wondered who knew that in the end it would be because of his curiosity. At this time, Inez looked at her fingers, on which was a diamond ring, indicating that she had finally received it. Days after the news turned the capital upside down, the newspapers were still full of articles about the relationship between two people, and this relationship, the end of which was predetermined, was proceeding smoothly as planned. The main character believes that in about 6 months, the year of Khalida will be taken to the temple, and after that, she will not marry for at least several years, since she will be a grieving widow. The lady believes it is best to keep Khalida to herself. However, she does not understand why the temple is giving the wielder of the demonic sword a reprieve. The girl ponders the fact that since the previous owners sooner or later went mad, she wonders why the next one wasn't taken away immediately after the sword chose him. And she doesn't understand why he was given time. Inez believes that in order to regain her strength, she still needs to maintain contact with Khalid. She ponders the fact that she needs to hold on to him until the end and learn about the sword's previous owners. The lady thought that maybe in their temple they knew something about the owner of the blade. The assistant tells the lady that she has received an invitation from the Imperial Palace. She says that this month was the Emperor's birthday. The main character touches Shamore's hand with her finger and reads her thoughts about how dare this short-headed man pester Mrs. Inez. And who would have thought that the mine the lady invested in would become so unprofitable? The girl thought about how Shamor also goes from one extreme to another, and she is the only one, except for Grandpa and Halo, who treats her like that. The lady turns to her assistant and says that they need to get rid of the mines in the south. Shamor tells the lady that negotiations in this direction have progressed greatly, and then asks if this is truly what she wants. Inez says it's a bad investment. Then she says she'll be out. The assistant says she'll make preparations for her departure right away. The main character reflects on the fact that today's date is a way to maintain the ability and also to inform Khalida about the upcoming misfortune. The girl understands that there are 3 days left until the day of his death, and now that all the preparations are complete, she can explain what will happen. Inez saw the captain standing in wet clothes. She asks on the way if it rained. He replies that water was poured on him as he was passing by. The main character says that first he needs to change his clothes. Hearing this, the assistant does not understand who is reacting so doomedly. The Duchess asks him how the last few days have been. He replies that nothing has happened. At this time, the girl thought that she did not see that he would be doused, and she thinks that perhaps it is worth seeing him more often in the future, because she thinks that what happened is more like a real threat to life than something banal. Inez tells the boy to come closer and then asks if he is hurt. And when she touches him, she realizes that he almost died before the killers attacked. An hour later, in a clothing store, Inez learned that Khalid had not been given the nickname of the unluckiest man in the world for nothing. She saw that a flower pot had almost fallen on his head, and the road he was driving on was closed for repairs. In addition, he was almost run over by a loaded cart, and the girl does not understand how something like this could happen during one trip to the store. The young gentleman asks if it would be better to call it a day. She replies that if she sends him alone, he might accidentally get run over by a carriage. He decides to stay. The girl thinks that she has convinced him. Inez says they got to the store and says that as long as it doesn't catch fire, everything will be fine. The young lady says she will wait for him outside and suggests he change his clothes and go out. Shamor tells the lady that she heard that he was unlucky, but not that unlucky. And then you say that in such a situation, she and Madame Inez could be in danger. The main character thought that it was not that she was not prepared for such a situation. She was simply surprised that what was happening was beyond her imagination. Inez reflects that it would be much easier if one could choose the misfortune that would fall on one's head. She wonders why he is taking so long in the dressing room. The girl asks Khalida if something happened, but when she knocks on the door and no one opens it, he tells his assistant to quickly bring the hammer. Khalid says there is a problem. The lady asks if the door is not opening. He says there is nothing wrong with the door. He explains that his buttons have come off. The young gentleman comes out with his shirt unbuttoned, and Inez tells him that she has already told him to show himself like this, only in front of her. The main character offers to put another shirt on him, and then says that she will hold the door. When the lady paid, the saleswoman said that there was much more than the clothes were worth. and the lady said that it was for repairing the fitting room door. When the young man came out of the fitting room, she thought that he was the most beautiful goose in the world, and thinks that it would be nice to change his hairstyle. But she understands that there is no hurry, and everything has its time. Suddenly, they heard screams that there was a fire at the entrance to the store. The main character was surprised and thought that who would have thought that a fire would break out, and she didn't even imagine that it would threaten them in a clothing store. Women who were passing by the store said lightning struck, and the sign fell. Then a fire started. Inez looked at the sky and saw that there were no clouds, and then she remembered that a few days ago, it had suddenly rained, and now lightning had appeared in the clear sky. And she thinks that apparently, the ability to foresee the misfortune of others is not omnipotent. The girl understands that she cannot see anything that does not make the other person feel unhappy. And although she can guess, she also cannot control such sudden phenomena as lightning strikes. The main character thinks that Khalad might die or get injured as a result of a natural disaster. The young gentleman says that the fire was probably started by him. And then he says that if luck is not on her side, she may suffer. He asks, despite this, if she still wants him to be her lover. The young lady says that lightning can strike in the middle of a clear sky, and on any other day, he asked if she thought it was a coincidence. Inez says yes, of course, and asks why he blames himself for everything. And at that moment she thought that every time something like this happened, people blamed Khalida for everything, because it was easier that way. The girl says that maybe it's because of her, because she's been a bit unlucky lately. And then she says that the ship she invested a large sum of money in sank. It just caught fire while she was cooking. The main character touches the guy's hand and says, that's why he wasn't so gloomy, and suggests a change of scenery. At that moment, she thought that she had to be extremely careful to avoid such surprises, and she realized that that was why he was called the unluckiest man in the world, and that misfortunes that she had never even heard of actually happened to him. Inez read his mind that he wanted to eat apple pie, and couldn't even imagine that today he wouldn't be able to try it because they were temporarily closed or ran out of ingredients. The girl wondered how many times he had visited the bakery, and she thought that he would fail again. The lady asks the young man if he likes apple pies. He replies that it is not that he does not like them. Inez tells him she's on 12th Street, where they sell the most delicious apple pies, and asks if he wants a snack, and then she thinks about how strangely sweet he is. When the lady returned home, the boy met her and asked her if she had a good time. She said yes, and then told her brother that he shouldn't overdo it either. Hilo agrees with his sister and says that he will come during the holidays. When his sister touches his hair, she is surprised, and then asks what is bothering him. The boy explains that he feels he has failed to greet the guest properly. The lady asks if he is talking about Sir Khalad, and he states that next time he will introduce himself, since this time he did not have time. Hilo smiled and said that he would definitely do it next time, and then announced that he was leaving. When the girl was seeing her brother off, she thought that he was really a cutie, and her assistant agreed with her and said that the young gentleman was very nice. And at that time she thought that the lady would never know that he became an angel only with her. Inez says that they haven't had tea in the garden for a long time. Shamor says that she will prepare everything now. The main character thought that her mother would be happy to see such support, since she has been taking care of everything herself lately, and when her mother gets better, they will take a walk together. The little lady tells her mother that she will no longer have to walk through the weedy garden, and tells her that the flowers will soon bloom, and then asks if she will open her eyes so. Inez thinks that if she had gained the ability a little earlier, then her mother would be sitting next to her now, and she felt the wine. She decided that she would succeed at any cost, without fear or doubt, and so she wanted to use this power to protect those who are dear to her. When Inez Khalad came to the cafe, they ordered an apple pie. However, the young man looked at it and did not eat it. The girl says that if he does not want it, then it can be packed. Walking down the street, the lady looked at the guy and thought that he was a modest guy who looked like a cat that had caught the desired fish. and he remembers that when they went to buy rings, he drank apple juice. Well, it means he likes apples. It's been a week since they entered into a sham relationship. However, he still doubts and keeps his distance, which reminds him of a very cautious cat. The girl thinks that maybe she is being condescending towards him, because she perceives him not as a man, but as a goose, laying golden eggs, and she understands that proposing a fictitious relationship was a good idea. And thanks to this, the number of marriage proposals has been halved. Inez turns to Khalad and apologizes for bringing up the subject during the meal, and tells him that he will be attacked by assassins in a few days. Then asks if he remembers this, as she said earlier, and asks him to do as she says. At this time, the main character informs that she will make sure that his hands do not get dirty with blood. The day when Khalada will be attacked has come. The girl remembers that she warned him to go straight home after work, and he should refuse dinner and behave as usual so that no one would suspect anything. The guy with black hair thought about the first date. Even though a lot had happened, nothing serious had happened, and he himself hadn't suffered or caused any damage. And he had even tried the apple pie he had wanted for so long, and he didn't understand if he had ever felt so calm in his life. Khaled thought about how he wished it were like that. Well, he knew he couldn't wish for much, and he thought he'd never be able to avoid misfortune in his life, and this day was all he needed. The boy looked at the door of his house and thought that he did not have much time. He realized that his body would soon be taken to the temple. The young gentleman touches the engagement ring that Inez bought and remembers their previous conversation. He thought that the girl would start asking him for something as soon as they entered into a fictitious relationship, but nothing happened. Khaled believes that no matter how much misfortune has happened, she has not escaped. He also suggests that perhaps she simply does not know how exactly she uses it. Sitting at the table, the captain remembered the lady's words about him having to refuse dinner and then throwing the food out of the balcony. He should have gotten rid of the food and put the dishes outside and finished his evening business as usual, and also should have put the sword nearby just in case. The blade smiles and says that his steel heart sings, and he believes that his time has finally come. After some time, robbers burst into the room and ask in surprise why he is not sleeping. The thief says that they said that he was given a sleeping pill and assumes that they made a mistake. The bandit says, "Don't panic, because it doesn't matter if he's the owner of the demon blade or not, he's just a man." Then he pounces on the guy and tells him to die. Khaled sits on the bed and watches as other bandits come to them at this time, and then they start fighting among themselves. Blade turns to their master and offers to join in as well, because he thinks that something tells him that these guys aren't here either. They came to play heroes. The stranger turns to the gentleman and says that they will clean everything up and he can sleep peacefully. Sword asks the owner what kind of jokes this is, because at that time, he did not understand what was going on at all, and he thinks that the killers killed the killers. Callan asks the bandits who sent them. They answer Lady Eldrin. Hearing this, the captain remembered what she had said about taking care that his hands did not get stained with blood. When the girl finished her business, she kept thinking that she had gotten quite a lot out of this deal, and then she looked at the ring and thought that lately she was beginning to feel like the ability had become stronger than before. Inez feels like the area of misfortune she can see has increased, and she realizes that she still needs Khalad to maintain her ability, and she still hasn't figured out how to maintain it without him. The main character thought that since she managed to save the life of the goose, she could calm down and think about it. And then she asks her assistant what is next on the schedule. She answers that she has lunch with Duchess Helios. The lady says that they still have time and can rest a little in the carriage. Shamor asks if she will be present at the banquet on the occasion of His Majesty's birthday. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had received an invitation and asked if maybe this year's evening was worth attending, since she thought that there was no better place to introduce a partner than the Imperial Palace. Inez believes that if she formally introduces her lover at a banquet in the Imperial Palace, she will no longer have to bother with explanations. And she says that if she goes to the banquet, she will meet people she usually does not see. The lady asks the assistant if the dress from Ruby's salon is ready. She replies that it will be finished soon. At this time, the main character thought that it might be worth rewarding them for their successful work. When they arrive at the party, Inez turns to Lady Herbert and says that she has a beautiful necklace. She replies that her father brought it back from a business trip as a gift. The lady says that the Marquise must love her very much. The main character recalls that the last tea party at the Countess's was humiliating. Inez said nasty things to her, but no one even took her side. And even after she left, they treated her as if she had never been there. The lady thought that from now on she must make sure that there are people on her side, and she thought that she had been given gifts and showered with compliments, and she thought that at least those present here were on her side. The free sister thought that she should wait because Inez would soon feel both the shame and humiliation that she had experienced. She was very tired and did not understand why she had to do this. The girl remembers that a few years ago they lived together in the Marquise's residence, but because Togo's mother fell ill, the halo was taken away. She was sad then, and she couldn't contact him for some time, and that's why she was so happy when the chance came. Ronnie thinks that Inez humiliated her in front of everyone. On top of that, she threatened her, and she thinks that even though they are step halo, he is her younger brother, and she does not understand how she dares to limit her like that. And she assumes that perhaps she is jealous and afraid that she will become closer with Halo. Ronnie thinks that Inez is now as she was once jealous of her father, and she thinks that it is enough to think about it because it is necessary to take part in the conversation. The Countess asks if they have heard that Lady Edrin intends to marry the owner of the demonic sword. The Marquise assures that she has spoken correctly, and then asks if the lady will attend the banquet at the Imperial Palace. She replies that of course she is going to go there, and that is why she is looking at fashion houses. The pink-haired girl says that it is difficult to get into Ruby Senon's house because almost no one is allowed in, and she thinks that it may be because the Imperial family likes this place. The Countess says that she would really like to wear her dress at least once in her life. Ronnie asks if it is so difficult to book a place in this fashion house. Hearing this, the ladies think that she can enter this house without any problem, and say that they envy her and ask her to take them with her next time. At this time, Ronnie thought that despite the fact that she had to beg her mother and father for a long time, she still got the opportunity to get to Rube Senyon. And in fact, she only received permission but had not yet placed an order. The coachman asks the lady if he wants to take her to the Herbert family mansion. She says no, and at this point, she doesn't understand what's going on because she thinks she's the only daughter of the Marquee Herbert, and he decides that if he doubles the price, they'll accept the order. The lady tells the coachman to take her to Ruby Senon's fashion house. Sitting in the carriage, Ronnie remembers that they said that Inez Eldrin was engaged to the owner of the Demon Blade, and she thinks that this is definitely a rumor since she is a city girl and vain, and she thinks that she should marry an old man with money and status. When the girl arrived at the salon, the lady informed her that the fashion house was closed. The lady says she has come to order a dress for the banquet. The woman apologizes and explains that they are no longer taking orders. The girl asks if the woman knows who she is and asks if she wants to refuse the Herbert family order. The lady says she apologizes and then explains that now they are forced to refuse even His Majesty the Emperor. Hearing this, the girl was surprised and then says that then they should cancel the other orders and accept her, since she will pay several times more. The lady suggests that she come next time. Hearing this, Renee thought that she had bragged to others, but in the end, she would not be able to order the dress. And I think that this will not work. She goes inside and points at a beautiful dress and then claims that she will buy it. The lady explains that this dress is not for sale because it is made to order. The young lady claims that she will pay well and then asks who ordered it, and she will talk to this customer personally. The woman replies that this dress was ordered by Mrs. Inez Eldrin, and it costs a lot of money. Hearing this, the girl thought that this dress cost as much as a whole set, and she realized that she could not afford it. Ronnie orders the designer to be called immediately. The saleswoman replies that she is not in the Empire and is on vacation. Then she explains that Mrs. Eldrin has sent all the house employees on vacation. At this time, Khalad came to Inez, and when he saw her, he asked where his younger brother was. She answered that he had returned to the academy, and so today they would be together. The captain asks if he really has to go to the banquet. The ladies ask if he wants to. Khaled explains that everyone will hate him if he shows up, and he has never been to such an event, and he believes that in places where there are large crowds, the likelihood of an emergency is much higher. Hearing this, the main character thought that this meant his first official debut in high society, and so she would like to take this opportunity to clear up the rumors about Khalida. Inez tells him not to worry because he has her. When they came into the room, the guy saw beautiful clothes and was surprised by her beauty. The lady says they are starting, and then she suggests the guy to try on the clothes. She says that a dark coat would go with the colorful shirt, and she wonders if it would be worth wearing a brooch with such an outfit. Khaled tried on all the outfits, and then he turns to the girl and asks her to stop already. She asks why, and also asks if he doesn't like it, and then says that if there are no clothes here that he likes, then they can come back to this tomorrow. Hearing this, the guy thought that he didn't want to try on clothes again tomorrow. The designer asked what to do with the hair and whether it should be cut a little. The lady objects and says that they should make the bangs shorter. After some time, the hairdresser did his job, and then the lady said that it was ready. She looked at the guy and said that his face had turned pink, and at that moment, she thought that now she wouldn't be ashamed to show herself with him. Inez says to give the gentleman a mirror, and when he looked, he liked the image. Blade says that the owner usually looks like an average citizen of the country, and today he looks like a young man from a wealthy family. The lady asks the boy, how about not taking the sword to the banquet? He replies that if he doesn't have the sword, he might die. Hearing this, the girl thought that this was a simple and strong answer, and then she asked if it can be decorated. Kalinok says with admiration that he is being decorated, and he is also going to the banquet. Inez asks her if it seems to her or if he just moved. Blade says that he actually knows how to talk and calls the girl a diamond. At this time, the gentleman thought that he was glad that the young lady did not hear the demonic sword. Mistress Villet decorates the demon's sword with a ribbon. Then she asks if she can touch the blade. The sword says that anyone she allows can touch it. The master says it's okay. Khaled looked at himself in the mirror, and the blade says that he likes it. The lady says that the sword is now decorated, and he can wear it to the banquet. Then she says that there is still much work to be done, and suggests that he come early in the morning. The girl asks if he will come the day before. The captain replies that he will arrive at dawn. The lady says that she will take all the clothes and accessories that he tried on today. Hearing this, the guy is surprised. She explains that these clothes are tailored to his measurements, and in any case, will not fit anyone except him. Khaled says that since he asks like that, wouldn't it be better to meet in a store? The girl asks if he likes going to fashion houses and says that next time she will buy a store. Inez touches the guy and sees in the future that, at the moment, everything is fine with him. Shamor turns to the lady and says that there is trouble because Marquee Herbert has arrived. She asks in surprise how this man got into the estate. The butler explains that he broke in and ignored the guards. Inez turns to Khalad and apologizes, then asks if he could wait a moment. She explains that it seems an uninvited guest has arrived. At this time, the girl thought that it was good that Hilo returned to the academy, and she did not understand how he dared to show up to her. The Marquis, crying out, asks why she made him wait so long. And then they report that they say she has been successful in investing. But to be so extravagant, the lady asks why he has come. He tells her to give up the dress she ordered from Ruby Senon. Hearing this, the main character smiled and thought that this man who did not come to his wife's funeral and her mother came here because of the dress, and thinks that she built up more expectations since this is the first banquet in the Imperial Palace. Renee sweetly tells her father that if her sister wants a Ruby Sanon dress, it would be polite to let her have it, because she thinks maybe she should have at least given her a chance to order. The gentleman says that if she cannot give in, then she should bring the fashion house employees back from vacation. Inez replies that the Marquise could do it himself. He asks if she thinks he hasn't tried. The lady says it's hard to get in touch and asks if he thinks they'll take the order. Then she says that he was, and still is, too easy on everything. The man heard this and asked how she was talking to her father. The girl asked if he was here. Then he said that there was only a man here who had abandoned his children because he did not want to pay child support. Inez asks him if he thinks someone who values every penny could afford Ruby Sanon's dress. Hearing these words, the man became very angry and then raised his hand to hit the girl. However, at that moment, Khalad came up to them and grabbed him in time. He asks what the gentleman is doing. The Marquis, crying out, asks who he is to interfere in the family affairs of others. The guy answers that he is her lover. The man was surprised to hear this, and then screaming, he says that he is her father. At this time, Shamor arrived with the guards. The lady orders that the two of them be thrown out, since no one called them. The Marquis screams and tells them to let him go, and then he asks how they dare. He also asks if they know who he is. The main character says that the Count's security is disgusting, and she believes that if this continues traveling, merchants will start visiting them. Shamor says it's her fault, then claims he'll fix it. Now father turns to Inez and says the conversation isn't over. She says her ears are withering. The girl turns to the captain and suggests that they go to a quiet place. He asks if it was in vain that he interfered. The lady says that it was just in time. The main character thought that she had never even imagined that he would stand up for her. Inez explains that he is her biological father, and the girl who is with him is her half-sister. He showed up to her a few years later, and that was because of some dress, and that surprised her. Marquee Herbert is such a caring father that he is willing to visit one daughter's house just because the other one couldn't buy a dress from a famous fashion house, and the girl is also curious if he remembers what he did. Inez understands that she still remembers that day, about how she begged him kneeling to help her mother, who was barely holding on, because at the moment it is difficult to cover all the expenses for treatment, and there is a catastrophic shortage of money. The Marquis then explains that when she said she was going to Count Eldrin, he tried to stop her, but she didn't listen and ran away from home anyway. He also said that if she left the estate, he wouldn't consider her his daughter. The Duchess tells the boy that this is her personal problem and that he has nothing to worry about, as she believes that something like this will not happen again in the future. Khaled says that if he shows up again, then by all means, let her inform him, and he will arrest him on the spot, and then asks if that is why she suggested a fake relationship. The lady replies that it is not only that, and she thinks that no matter how much Marquis Herbert kicks, he cannot behave as he pleases in front of the commander of the detachment of Imperial Knights. Not only are the nobles afraid of the Imperial Knights, but now Marquis Herbert will have even more problems. The main character thought that he probably wanted to know a lot about her family, but he was silent and didn't ask anything. The guy asks what he will have to do at the banquet and says that when they show up at the party, all attention will be focused on the two of them, and says that it is not necessary to talk to everyone because he thinks that would be difficult. He suggests that they just focus on him. Inez asks Sir Khaled if he is ready to become her beloved lover, and when the young men came to the banquet, they immediately began to gossip about them. The aristocrats were curious why she gave preference to the owner of the demonic sword, and rumors began to spread that the captain was known for his bad luck even before the sword. A lady asks young Master Asdon about rumors of his brother's engagement, and she wonders if it is true. and another lady says that she heard that Lady Eldrin personally visited his estate. At this point, Deepening was thinking that he was already frustrated to death about what was happening. But everyone kept talking about that bastard, and he didn't understand why they were adding fuel to the fire. Deepening replies that Lady Eldrin did visit them, but he is not sure about the rest. He thinks that rumors will soon spread that they have separated. Hearing this, the lady is surprised and asks what happened and offers to tell her in more detail. The young master says that this bastard leech is a parasite on their family because he was taken from an orphanage by parents who were probably commoners, and now he is the adopted son of the family. However, this will not last long, and it will be like this until the bastard is taken to the temple. Deepening doesn't understand how this worthless guy can be with Inez. He says he doesn't want to talk about it, but his brother has a really bad character. Hearing this, the Marquise asks why Lady Eldrin is with such a person. The young master says that although he is his elder brother, he sometimes does not understand him, and he thinks that Khalad is always gloomy and does not know how to tidy himself up. When the aristocrats saw Lady Eldrin, too, they wondered who was with her. They also thought that she was dating another man. However, he seemed too familiar. Lady Eldrin was considered a real beauty, and everyone was delighted because she was wearing a dress from Ruby Senyon, in which she looked even more beautiful and brighter. The gentlemen became curious about who the man next to her was, and they thought that he might be from some noble family since he looked rich. The main character saw surprised looks, and then she whispers in the guy's ear, asking if maybe they should stay closer to each other. He doesn't understand what she's talking about and wonders where else closer. The girl offers to hug her around the waist. He asks if it is really necessary. A few minutes later, a man comes up to them and says that he and Lady Eldrin haven't seen each other for a long time. Then he asks if she remembers him. The man says that she always looks beautiful, but today she is dazzlingly beautiful. The Marquise says that she thinks she is seeing this young gentleman for the first time. Inez explains that he is her lover. Then she says that they tried to keep their relationship a secret, but the rumors kept growing, so they decided not to hide it. The gentleman asks if the engagement to the owner of the demonic blade is just a rumor. The main character says that they are not officially engaged yet, but the rings have of course been bought. The man is surprised and asks what this means. Inez says that this gentleman is her beloved Khalad Asdon. Hearing this, the master asks if that person is the owner of the demon blade, and he thinks that the rumors about them dating were true. The Marquise approaches the girl and asks if she is okay. She does not understand what he is talking about and asks about it. The man wonders if something will happen to her because of the owner of the demonic blade. Inez asks if he hopes that something will happen to her. He explains that this is not the case, but that he is simply worried. And after these words, the Marquis leaves with the feeling that he said something wrong. The main character saw that Ronnie had arrived quite late. The Marquise, when she came to the ball, did not understand what a strange atmosphere was, and she wondered if there really was no one who would recognize her here, and she became interested in what everyone was talking about. At this time, the main character thought that her sister wanted to attract as much attention as possible, since she always appears last as the main character. Inez turns to Lady Herbert. Seeing her, the girl does not understand who is next to her, and she thought that she sees this handsome man for the first time. She says that today's banquet will be interesting. At this time, the butler announces that His Majesty the Emperor has arrived. Seeing him, the lady does not understand what is happening, and she thinks that even though he has light hair and eyes of a different shade, she does not understand why she sees Khalada in His Majesty. The young master asks His Majesty what happened. He replies that everything is fine. Inez. At this time it seemed that His Majesty was surprised to see Khalada, and she understands that the matter is that the owner of the demonic blade came to the banquet. The lady believes that Khalad received an invitation as well, and that is why the Emperor knew he would come, but she wonders if there might be another reason. The emperor addresses the nobles and thanks them all for taking the time, despite their busy schedules. He then says that glory to the Venetian Empire. The priest says that the 100-year-old pearl was specially selected by their Duchy cod for the birthday of His Majesty the Emperor, and they delivered wine from the best grapes of their empire. And then he says that this is a gift to His Majesty from His Holiness branch of the sacred tree. Siegfried is a deity worshipped by most of the continent's inhabitants, and it is the greatest gift that he sent a sacred tree that stretches across the entire continent. The main character does not understand how to give this a branch of a sacred tree as a gift to the emperor. His Majesty thanks him and offers to convey his gratitude to his priesthood. Inez was surprised and wondered if it really was a branch of the sacred tree, and she thought that because of that something was squeezing in her chest. The girl wondered if everyone felt it, and she pondered that maybe that's why the tree is considered sacred. Inez noticed that the man who brought the gift was looking at Collada as if he was measuring how much time he had left to live. The main character thought that she had already changed the captain's future several times, and therefore she believed that it would be impossible to prevent the clouding of reason. The lady looked into the crown prince's eyes and thought that it would be nice to establish a connection with the ruling family, like a businessman and all. The main character understands that most of them are rude, and she thinks that she should stop staring and avoid the prince as much as possible. Inez thought that now that everyone remembered her, it would be better to leave because she believed that she had come here not to get closer to other people, but to show off with her lover, and she believed that the goal had been achieved. The girl asks Collada if he wants something to drink. He says no, and she asks again if it's true. The lady says that her darling is thirsty, so they deviate. The main character gives the guy a glass of juice and asks if he likes apples. He says not that he likes them very much. She asks if he should replace it with wine. Khaled that it is not necessary. At this time she thought that she knew that he liked apples, and she thinks that this is just a sign of that he does not want to show his weakness. Duchess Helios approaches Lady Eldrin and asks if she has been having a good time. The girl asks what she thinks of her and then asks if she is having fun here too. The Duchess apologizes, and the lady asks what's wrong. She replies that it's nothing, and then asks if she wouldn't mind giving her a minute. Inez kisses the guy on the cheek and says that she will be back soon, and offers to wait for her a little. While alone, Khaled thought about how she had just touched him. The young gentleman recalls how he was asked if he would take responsibility if something happened to his mother, and his brother said that he wanted to sit somewhere else. The next day, Collada was informed that he would now have to eat in his room. The captain wondered if Inez found him repulsive, and he thought he should drink some more apple juice. The blade tells the owner that Dihat's henchmen are heading towards him. The man says he was so excited when he heard about the owner of the demon blade, but he realized that in the end, he was nothing, and then asks who he is to be with the lady and Inez. Dihat thinks that it seems that he bribed her with something to please her, and he asks how long this will last, because he heard that he brings bad luck, and he also wonders when she asks him. The sword tells the owner that it seems to him that they are jealous, and he thinks that the diamond is very popular. The man asks if he can hear him. He says he must be pretending everything is normal. Blade tells the owner that Dihat is here too, and then asks if he can punch him in the face once and then run away. The man thought that it didn't matter who Khaled Asdon was, that he was the commander of the knights, because he believed that he was the one who would surpass him, and he thought that he would crush his peace here and now. Dihat asks him if he knows what his family has lost because of such a bastard, and says that in any case, he will soon be taken away, and therefore he thinks there is no need to cause trouble for others, and then asks if he wants to bring trouble on Lady Eltrin. Khaled asks if he wants to do an experiment and see if his misfortune can be passed on to another. Then he says it would be funny if they were both miserable. He pulls out his sword and says that he will be the next wielder of the demon's sword. At this time, the blade says that it is not funny to him, since there is not a drop. Hearing this, Duchy got scared, and then screaming, he said that he would talk to him at home and quickly left. At this time, the young gentleman thought that since they had started a fight, he was obliged to do something similar. The Duchess asks Lady Eldrin if the man she came with is the owner of the demon's sword. She replies that he is. Galio says that the reason she called her is because she wanted to discuss a certain deal Inez offers to talk. The woman looks away and says that it looks like someone is not getting along. The main character thought about coming to such a place and starting fights, and she doesn't understand which of them has no manners, and she can't believe that it's about her Goose. The girl understands that if something bad happens, they will really be discussed. And then she turns to the Duchess and asks if they can postpone this conversation until next time. The woman says that she must be holding her up for too long. Inez says that's not the issue because she's worried about him being alone. Hearing this, the lady says that it seems that she really cares about him. And she says that she knew that the girl entered into a relationship for some reason. Hearing this, the main character thought that the Duchess was smart, and perhaps it was all about her maternal instinct. Inez assures that she herself did not think that she would fall in love with someone, and then she says that she is completely lost. The lady says that she understands then, and suggests that she quickly return to her lover. The Duchess turns to Khaled and asks what happened. He assures her that nothing happened. The girl then suggests going out onto the terrace and getting some fresh air. The guy asks if she regrets it because she saw what people think about him. At this time, the main character thought that such a reaction was expected, but does not understand why he is so insecure. Inez thought that maybe he wanted her to give him up, and she realized that it was impossible, and then asked why. The girl says he did a great job, and that's why she thinks it's better to seem crazy than good-natured. And then she says she doesn't regret it. On the contrary, she's glad he accompanied her to the banquet. The lady thought that people were afraid of Khaled, so the number of those spreading rumors would be reduced, and that would be enough to achieve the goal. Inez says she doesn't know what's bothering him, but she has no reason to break the contract first. Then she asks why he's doing this to her. The main character thinks that she can't be kind without reasons, and thinks that what she said last time was not enough. But she realizes that she can't tell the truth, and then she says that he is her type. Khaled asks, surprised what she is talking about. The lady explains that she has a thing for handsome men. Then she touches the boy's hair and says that he looks especially charming today. Inez says she saw Asdon. She asks if they had a fight. He explains that when the argument arose, he said a few kind words to him. The girl asks if she should be scolded. The young gentleman replies that it is not necessary. The Duchess asks him if he wants to move out of the house Asdon. Then she says she can arrange it. He says it's too much trouble. Khaled that if he leaves the mansion, he will have to cut himself off from the Asdon family. And at least that's what the Marquis and his wife said, because in that case, he will become a commoner and will not be able to continue to be a member of the Order of the Imperial Knights. At this time, the main character does not understand why, and she reflects on the fact that even though she saw the Asdon couple only once, she immediately noticed that they treat Khaled as if he does not exist at all. The girl thought that there were reasons why they had decided to tie him to the family by appointing him as the heir, and she wondered if it was worth investigating. But then she thought that there was no need to know about each other's personal lives. Inez reflects that in any case everything went rather quietly, and she thought that after arriving at the banquet, a series of accidents would occur. The lady thought that when she kissed him on the cheek, something unusual happened, and she thinks that she needs to make sure of something. And then the girl hugs the guy and thought that it was true, because the scale of the misfortune varies depending on the level of contact, and as expected, there will be accidents. The guy asks her, in surprise, what she is doing, and then pushes the girl away from him. Inez asks how what then explains that she is trying to see the misfortune. He asks, why not do it the usual way? The girl says that this is not yet certain, and it seems to her that depending on the level of contact, she can see different misfortunes, but apparently she can see much wider and deeper. The main character says that if she holds his hand and not just puts her arm around him, or if she hugs him like she is now, and then asks if they can try touching lips. The gentleman asks her in surprise if she is in her right mind. She says of course she is, and suggests they start with a kiss on the cheek. Khaled turns around and leaves and says that he will bring something to drink. Hearing this, the main character thought that he ran away, but he thinks that there is still time. Suddenly, the girl heard footsteps and thought that Khaled was a cutie because he came back so quickly. The Crown Prince asks Lady Eldrin if he is disturbing her. He asks her to give him a moment. Inez Eldrin greets His Majesty, the Crown Prince. He says he has heard a lot about her, but this is the first time he has seen her. He then asks if she is really in touch with the owner of the demon blade. The main character says, it's true. He says she's beautiful, and he feels sorry for her. The girl says that her lover is not the kind of person who would calmly listen to such things, and she says that it is too much for her. The Crown Prince apologizes and explains that he did not mean to offend her. He then says that Sir Khaled Asdon is his pride. At this point, Inez thought that he was speaking as if he had looked in by mistake, and not the fact that he had entered the terrace despite the curtains being drawn, which clearly indicated that there was someone there and could not be a coincidence. The lady asks what His Majesty wanted to talk about, and she thought that she tried to avoid him as much as possible, but who knew that he himself would decide to find her? The Crown Prince asks if she wants to go into politics. Then he asks that Count Eldrin has long since retired from family affairs, and everyone thinks that she has taken the place of the true head of the family. The prince says he is looking for young and talented people to help him, and then he says he would like the lady to be his political partner. Hearing this, the main character thought that this was not what she expected, and she wondered if he was trying to strengthen his power. However, what was bothering her and the Crown Prince, the only son of the Emperor and the only heir to the throne? At present, the Emperor's authority is unshakable, and no one seeks to fight him for power. Therefore, when the time comes, the throne will pass to the prince. The girl wonders if there is any reason why he is trying to strengthen his power. The young master says that if she doesn't mind, he wouldn't mind a relationship. Hearing this, the lady thought that by relationship, he meant the position of the crown princess. The main character thought that although this proposal is attractive, she does not understand how she can agree if she does not know what he has in mind. And she believes that if his goal is to strengthen his power, then he should give preference to a girl with a higher status than hers. Inez thinks she might be used and thrown out, then thanks him for the offer and explains that she needs time to think. The prince says that he understands her and thinks that it must have come as a surprise to her, and he says that in that case, he will give her time. However, if she refuses him, then it will not be in her favor. The girl says she will keep that in mind. His Majesty says he hopes she enjoys the evening, and then he leaves. The Duchess thought that he was using rather radical methods to attract power, and she did not think that threats would be used. And she was thinking about what she could, so she felt unpleasant when their eyes met. The main character understands that she will have problems if the next emperor becomes an enemy, and she does not allow herself to be used. Next time she will need to touch him and find out his weaknesses. Inez thought that the banquet at the Imperial Palace, which she attended for the first time in her life, was different from her expectations. Ronnie wanted to attract as many people's attention as possible, and she even showed up at the last minute, but everyone was busy with something else. When the ladies saw the girl, they said that everyone was waiting for her. At that time, the half-sister saw Inez and thought that the dress should have been hers, and the man next to her, whom she saw in the estate. The lady tells the girl that Lady Eldrin has come today with the owner of the demonic blade. Then she asks if she is afraid that he will suddenly go crazy. The Marquise says that she heard that he was ugly, but she never thought that he would actually turn out to be handsome. I heard that Ronnie was surprised and thought that the rumors that Inez was dating him were true, and she realized that the man was the owner of the demonic sword. The Marchioness asks Lady Herbert if her dress is from Ruby Sannon's shop. She explains that she is simply curious, as it is so different from the one they used to make. Ronnie explains that the dress is from another salon, and that Ruby Sannon's made her a dress, but she couldn't wear it because an employee accidentally ruined it, and there was nothing she could do. The lady says she is being so condescending, and says that if she were her, she would fire that employee. At this point, Mrs. Herbert thought that it was not her plan to talk to these ladies. She wanted to make a grand debut and surround herself with people she deserved. Ronnie leaves, and the ladies ask where she is rushing to. The girl approached the demon sword owner and greeted him. Lady Herbert asks the boy if he remembers her. However, he does not answer, and the girl says that she is embarrassed because it seems that he does not remember her. Ronnie says that there was a little confusion because Sister Inez misunderstood her, and that's why it bothered her so much, and she wanted to apologize. Khaled asks what she wanted to apologize for. She replies that she dragged him into the family squabble. The guy says that in that case it would be better to apologize to Lady Eldrin. However, the girl objects and says that Inez is to blame for what happened that day because she did not listen to her father's words. She believes that the problem could have been solved by simply discussing it. But since Sister has always been like this, since childhood, she has only caused trouble for the family, as she did this time too. The young gentleman says that he understands, and in that case, he will take his leave. Suddenly, the girl grabs his hand and says that she doesn't care who anyone thinks he is. Even if he is the owner of a demonic blade, she thinks he is a good person. Khaled asks in surprise where she got that from, and also asks what she knows about him. Hearing this, Ronnie thought that he would be touched by his words, but she did not understand why he said this. At this time, the main character standing on the balcony thought that it was time for this gentleman to return. After all, he said that he would bring something to drink, and thought that maybe something had happened since he was so late. Inez decided to see where Khaled had disappeared too, and when she saw him with his half-sister, too was surprised. She asked what they were doing here together. Hearing this, Ronnie wondered if she would get into trouble for talking to Sir Asdon. Then she turns to her sister and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Inez asks if they hadn't seen each other a few days ago. Then she reminds him that she and the Marquise showed up at her mansion demanding a dress, and she asks if Ruby Sannon hadn't accepted her order. Upon hearing this, the ladies do not understand what it means, since she did not say that she was unable to wear the dress she had made due to a mistake on the part of the staff. Ronnie replies that she ordered it, but there was a problem, so she couldn't wear it. Hearing this, the main character thought that this was a worthy excuse for her, and then asks what she needs from her lover. Mrs. Herbert explains that she came over to say hello because she was worried that she had not been able to introduce herself properly last time. Inez asks if she came to say hello and says that as expected blood is thicker than water, and says that she reminds her of a shameless woman who is eager to get someone else's man and is also not against destroying someone else's family. Ronnie suggests to be more careful with expressions because she thinks that she has a higher status than her. The main character says that she wasn't talking about any specific one, and she's already choking. And she says that unlike before now, she can flaunt this status as much as she wants. Ronnie threatens that if she insults her again, Inez asks if she will go and complain to Marquee Herbert again. Ronnie drops the fan and turns to Inez, then screaming announces that she challenges her to a duel. In the case of ladies, a duel is a sword fight between their representatives, and the loser must publicly apologize to the winner. Since it is a matter of honor, many spend large sums to hire a representative. Inez agrees and says that she accepts her challenge. Then she says that she will choose the place and asks to inform about her representative 3 days before the duel. The main character announces that Sir Khalad will speak for her. The girl thought about the situation she saw on the balcony when she hugged him. However, she wanted to live peacefully but the duel. And she believes that since they went to a banquet, it was to be expected that an incident would not happen without it. The Duchess approaches the boy and says that if he becomes her representative, she will give him half of the profits. He claims that this is not necessary. Inez assures that this should not be given up so easily, since she assumes that they will tear the bushes. The girl says that Imperial support alone is not enough to lead a knightly order and asks how much he knows. The gentleman replies that he just wants to help. She says that there will be an equally talented person on the other side and asks if he really isn't interested. Inez thinks that a duel is a good idea for Ronnie, and she thinks that it would be great to break her by winning, and she wonders if there is anything else that can attract so much attention. The main character believes that until now, she has been operating as an investor, but she understands that it would be nice to open her own business. The girl understands that it is quite difficult to specifically create a place that would attract a lot of attention from the public, and she believes that this is why you can put up stands for spectators and charge admission and also promote new businesses and products. With Kalada's approval, Inez got to work. She knew she needed to develop a product to advertise the duel, and she was thinking about the fact that she might opt for the cosmetics she had thought about last time. When the girl entered the store, she realized that nothing had changed since her last visit, and she thinks that the quality of the goods is mediocre for such a price and position. There are not many, and there is no separate store. The girl reflects on the fact that most people buy cosmetics at home, and since the market is monopolized by a few companies, it is not that big. The main character understands that for this reason, the cosmetics market is not attractive to businessmen, especially to her, because she had no idea that the cosmetics business would grow so much, and she thinks that it is too late, because she should have started earlier. Inez reflects that according to the disaster she saw, the cosmetics market is destined to succeed. However, she still does not know what triggered it, and she believes that something needs to be different from existing products. The protagonist understands that although she may see the outcome in the future through the misfortune of others, ultimately she will have to deal with the process herself. Suddenly, the girl heard a conversation about how some girl wanted to tell the saleswoman about their product. However, she did not want to hear it, but the lady did not give up and said that it would not take much of her time and offered to just take a look. The saleswoman says that she doesn't seem to understand because she's interfering with her work and tells her to leave. But suddenly the girl dropped something from her hands, and Shamor picked up the object and said that she had it. The main character asks her assistant why she doesn't put on makeup. She also asks if there is a reason for this. Shamor replies that she doesn't really like makeup, but she's also worried that if she puts it on, she won't have time to touch it up, especially her lipstick. Inez understands that it is difficult to modify lip products so that they can be used comfortably, and even she had to get a separate brush and mirror for this. The main character believes that a cosmetic product that is easy to use and can be carried around, and if it existed, it would be successful in the market. She remembered the girl who wanted to tell about her product. The lady reflects that the cosmetic market has grown significantly after the launch of their products, but sales are too small compared to other companies, and if she had received more investment, she would have been more successful. Inez touched the girl and then apologized, and at that time, she thought about the person who had set the market in motion, came to her himself. After all, only a few hours had passed since she had thought about the problem in the cosmetics market. The lady asks the girl what she dropped. She wanted to answer, but the saleswoman says that if they are not going to buy anything, they could leave the premises. The main character says that it seems that nowadays, in department stores, you have to pay even just to be in them, and then tell Shamor to buy something. Inez invites the girl to talk in private. The lady says that her name is Lachey Soleil and she has her own small business. And then it is said that this is why she has her own container where she can put her cosmetics. When developing their priority was convenience, so that the product could be easily taken with you anywhere. Hearing this, the lady thought that it was amazing to have lip products that she could easily carry around. And that was exactly what she was looking for. Lachey reports that they have not yet found distribution routes or established large-scale production, and asks if the lady could invest in their funds. Inez thought that she would check again just in case, and she says that she thinks it is difficult to distribute their product at the moment, and she does not yet know whether there is a need to engage in mass production. Ms. Eldrin says they have been studying market trends and producing cosmetics for over 5 years, and she is confident that this product will revolutionize the market. Lachey says that's why he wants to lay a solid foundation so that there won't be a slump in the future. The lady says that she likes people with ambitions, and then she takes lipstick and paints her lips, and she says that to succeed, you have to want it. Inez tells the girl that it is a good product. Upon hearing this, Lachey says that if she invests, well, the main character says that she will buy it. If she gets to the top, she will give her full support. The lady asks if she doesn't want to see the next time the salesman begs her to enter the store. Lachey thanks the lady for her kind words. Then she says that, to her shame, she got into a lot of debt during the development of the product because it is difficult to survive on one's salary, and she wanted the business to be successful. The main character claims that when you start your own business, it's inevitable, and then says that she will pay off the debt. The lady asks where she got the money, in a bank or somewhere else. The girl answers that she took a loan from a bank and took it from the financial company Amon Company moneylender, which is well known to her. The main character understands that not only that under their control is a gambling house, the worst of all evils. The girl reports that she borrowed $300,000 from them. Last time she was told that, taking into account the interest, the amount increased to $500,000. And she believes that now the interest has increased even more. Hearing this, Inez thought that even though turning to Amon was not the best choice, she understood Lachey's desperation, because she knew all too well what it was like to be faced with a precipice. The main character remembers that she once had no choice but to go to Amon, and then she says that she will help pay off the debt, but in return she must promise to lead her to the top. Lachey, surprised, asks the lady why she agrees to this. Hearing this, the lady thought about this question again, and she remembered the captain, and she explains that she believes in its profitability. Inez thought she was being so honest with people she was meeting for the first time, but in the end, she lied to her golden goose. The main character asks the girl if she is really sure that she will be able to lead the business to success by receiving investments, and she says that she is confident in her proposal and that if she signs a contract with her, she will live her life without wanting for anything. Lachey says she will lead her to the top. At this time, the assistant wants to buy the cheapest candies in the department store, and the saleswoman thought that she could buy something else. Inez tells the girl that they must go and invites her to sit comfortably in the carriage and asks where to take her. Lachey answers to Amon. At this time in the mansion, the servants are talking about Lady Herbert challenging Lady Eldrin to a duel, and they were surprised because they are half-sisters. However, they do not seem to get along very well. The maid claims that this duel is about a man, and in that case, whoever wins will get him. Hearing this, Kalad thought that they could chat as much as they wanted, since he just wanted a quiet life, and he wondered who would have thought that he would become a representative in a duel. The guy thinks that although this is an unexpected turn of events, the conditions are not so bad, and half of the profits that Inez mentioned would be a good help for the third squad of knights, which lacks financial support. The gentleman is thinking that besides, there will be an equally talented person on the other side, and he is really not interested. After all, he thinks that the offer was very attractive. The captain understands that before he picked up the demonic sword, he often sparred with the first squad. but since he became the commander of the third squad of knights, he has not had time for swordsmanship due to his business. Kalad believes that the third squad is the lowest rank among the knights and is actually responsible for minor and insignificant tasks, and somehow it seems that Inez is always at a disadvantage. The sword turns to its owner and reminds him that they are late. The knights ask the captain what their job is today. He replies that they are going to the Amman gambling house, since according to the information received, illegal drug deals are being made there, and their goal is to catch the deal and detain those involved. The captain suggests dispersing and looking for suspicious people. After a few minutes, he says that it seems the wager is starting where the stake is 2 million. Hearing this, the knight was surprised and said that he did not even know how much their salaries were. And then he calculated and said that it was more than 20 years. Khaled looked at the man and thought that this man was an inveterate gambler, and he would never have thought that there would be other people who besides Inez would be willing to spend such a sum. The captain looked at the man and saw Inez next to him, who was also playing. A lady makes a bet, and a man asks her if she will regret it later. She replies that she will have to wait until the end of the game to find out whether she will regret it or not. 30 minutes ago, Chief Amin Hamat greeted the lady. She says they haven't seen each other for a long time. Hamat says that many years have passed since their last meeting. The lady says that she came here on Lachey's business and intends to pay off her debt. Inez says that she heard that the girl borrowed 300,000 from him. The owner heard this, smiled, and said that it was so. And then he says that in that case, taking into account the interest, it would be about 900,000. The Duchess asks why the amount has increased so much and also wonders if this is written into the contract. Haman replies that the documents state that if the debt is not repaid by a certain time, the interest rate can be doubled. The owner says that this girl was unable to return the money on time, and since she now came with Mrs. Inez, he is only willing to pay off the debt for the amount of 900,000. And he claims that everything is written in black and white in the contract. Hearing this, the main character thought that no matter how many years have passed, he does not change at all, and she understands that this look that is desperately trying to get a higher interest rate. The girl remembers that in the past, she was terribly tired of him, so she did everything he asked, and then she says that 900,000 is not so much, and she says that now everything is different. Inez is thinking that she won't give even one prule to some scumbag like him. The lady says that she heard that he has lost a lot lately, and therefore she thinks that the gambling house and gambling have nothing to do with it. Haman asks what she's talking about, and he thinks she doesn't know, but he was once a famous man. Inez asks if he wants to bet with her, and she writes out a check and says that the base bet is 900,000. And on top of that, the loser will be fined another 900,000. The main character says that the loser will owe a little less than 2 million. Having heard this sum, the master agrees to play with her. The lady says that she is for everything to be done fairly and without cheating, and then they shake hands. The gentleman offers to set the table. Inez asks who will start. He says Lady Eldrin. The girl thought that she couldn't believe that she had just picked up the cards and was already seeing misfortune, and she believed that the range of abilities had really expanded. She understood that he was going to do this. The main character thinks that she didn't even expect a fair match. The man says that now it's his turn, and when he looks at the result, it seems to him that he won the first round. Inez threw the bone and then apologized and explained that her hand jerked. She looked at the broken bone and said that they would need new ones. The owner says that he will prepare new ones. However, the girl objects and says that it is not necessary, since in any case the dice are the same everywhere, and she suggests borrowing some from another table. The main character remembered that she shouldn't tell anyone about her ability, and she broke the promise she made to her mother after she found out about Amon's gambling house. Count Eldrin was on the verge of bankruptcy due to Marquee Herbert's support, and her mother was in such a serious condition that she could not even get out of bed. Everyone refused to lend a helping hand, and the costs of treatment only increased, and so she had no choice but to take out a loan. The little brother tells his sister that he is scared. He screams and says that if she has nothing to pay off the debt, then she should sell the mansion. The girl hugs Hilo and tells him that everything is okay because she is there. Then she tells him that she will figure everything out soon and tells him not to worry. The main character, who was then left face to face with a huge debt that she could not pay, decided to use her abilities and protect her family. Instead of going to the moneylenders, Amon went to the Amon gambling house, and from then on she began to actively use her ability. Mrs. Eldrin shows her cards and says that she won. Hearing this, Hammond thinks that he finds it funny and also wonders where she got such good cards from. And then, screaming, he says that she cheated. The Duchess asks him if he has proof. He says that it simply cannot be so. The girl claims that if she cheated, he would lose Hamad's credit of trust. She says that this is his gambling house and asks if he means to say that people are being cheated here and suggests that he not be so greedy in the future. Inez hopes he remembers what the condition was. Then she says that a bet of 900,000 is enough to pay off Lachey's debt and therefore offers to cover the fine of 900,000 by the end of the evening. Hearing this, the girl is surprised and says that this is amazing because she did not think that the lady would win. Shamor asks if she did not say that Lady Inez would win. The lady says that since they have sorted everything out, she suggests that they return to their business. Suddenly, the main character saw the captain, and she said that she would go up to the second floor for a short while. The assistant said that she would go with her, but the lady objected and said that it was not necessary since she would only meet the Goose. Inez explains that this is the nickname of his lover and suggests that they wait a little, as it will return soon. When the girl went up to the second floor, she became curious about where he went, since she was sure that he was definitely here. The main character saw the prophecy and thinks that it is Kalada's misfortune, and she sees a lot of things today. And she also saw the guy's thought that she suffered because of him. The girl does not understand why she should suffer and why he thinks so. Khaled asks the lady what she is doing here and hugs her from behind. She replies that she has come to pay her debt. Hearing this, the captain thought that he had just seen her gambling. The girl explains that it was not hers, but a business partner. Inez asks the guy what he's doing here. He says he's on a mission. The lady asks if she can help him, because she thinks she just saw a criminal get away with a contract, and asks if he's here to investigate drug trafficking. At this time, the girl thought that all he needed was to just ask for help, and she wondered why he didn't want to do it, and thought that maybe it was because of pride, or that he thought that help was too suspicious. The main character ponders what it means that it takes more time for him to open up to her. Inez points at the guy and asks if he sees the man in red on the first floor. The knights approached the captain and asked if he had summoned them, and when they saw the lady, they were surprised. Khaled wags to catch the man in red who is standing on the first floor. The knights immediately carried out the order. The man who was caught screaming asks who they are and offers to let him go. The captain shows his ID and says he's under arrest for drug trafficking. Then he offers to take him away and search him thoroughly. Inez says that since that's the case, she wonders if he wants to nip the problem in the bud. Then she explains that she saw it before she placed her bet. The lady suggests that the man go next, because she understands that obviously the Hamad has a nasty side. And when the captain came to the owner's office, the door was closed. However, he quickly decided to break this lock. And when he entered the room, he saw the owner hiding money in a bag, and he intended to escape. Inez says that, as expected, there is a lot of good stuff in this place, and she believes that as soon as the knights appeared, he immediately went on the run. Haman, screaming, asks the lady if she reported. The lady says that's why she told him, so he wouldn't be greedy. However, the owner objects and says that he worked hard to earn this money, and he screams and says that he will never give it back. Khaled knocked the owner down with one blow, and when he felt the pain, he no longer wanted money. Suddenly, the girl felt danger, and then she pushes the guy and falls to the floor with him. She asks if he was hurt, and it seems to her that he miraculously escaped. And when she looked at him, she does not understand what is wrong with his face and asks about it. The sword turns to their master and says that it looks like Brulik is hurt. Khalad asks the girl if she is hurt. Inez replies that if you don't count more in the ankle, then everything is fine. The guy picks up the girl and says that first they will move to another place and examine her ankle. The main character explains that she was surprised at first, but quickly regained her composure. Then she asks what to do with this boss. He replies that he will tell his subordinates to take care of him. Khaled asks the girl to let him look at her ankle. She asks in surprise why he wants to see her. The guy says that he is worried and suggests that she speak without jokes. After a few minutes, he reports that he has provided first aid, and just in case he suggests that she see a doctor. The lady says that she thinks that in a few days everything will be fine. At this time, the guy thought that he was just lucky, and if someone else had been in her place, he would have received serious injuries. But he understands that he does not want to look at this and does not want anyone to suffer because of him. And he also thinks that it is stupid to prevent misfortune. Khaled claims that next time things might end differently. And then he tells the girl that this is the last warning, because he thinks that if she wants to live, it is better for them not to be together. The guy thought that his misfortune was like a virus, and he always hurts those around him, and because of him, everyone dies, and in the end, he is left alone with the insult. I reflects on the fact that such pain can only be endured alone. Inez objects and says that this won't do, and then says that if she was going to give up, she wouldn't have started. Khaled asks what will happen if something like this happens because of him. She assures that it can take a long time to find the root cause of misfortune, and so people blame either themselves or others. But she is glad, because in the end they are alive and well. The girl assures that she will survive even if the whole world comes to an end, and suggests to the young gentleman not to worry. At that moment, the guy thought that he no longer wanted to hope for anything, because he understood that expectations lead to disappointment. And he gave up on everything and fenced himself off with a wall to accept it as a given. However, today he had a feeling, and he wanted her to be near him. Inez says it's because she saved his life. He thought about the first time he saw someone behind that solid wall, and he wondered if he could ever believe that she would live and smile despite his misfortune. Khaled thought about whatever she wanted from him, whatever her goal, whether he could trust anyone one last time. Shamor gives the girl a letter and says that it was sent this morning by Lachat Saleha. The assistant says that the current production capacity is 100 pieces per day, and in a week, they will be able to start production. Inez asks, what about the interior of the store? She replies that it is almost finished. At this time, the main character thought that the contract with Loche was about creating a company to develop the first product, and everything was going smoothly. The assistant says that Hamad was thrown behind bars yesterday. Hearing this, the main character says that this is great and thinks that he will rot there for 100 years. And she thinks about the fact that it was necessary to collect information and hang more accusations on him. Shamor says his property has been seized, so he cannot get bail. Inez says she has the location of his hiding place, and she saw it when she contacted him. And she also believes that ill-gotten money should not be used for selfish purposes. The main character says that this money should be donated anonymously to an orphanage. After a few days of rest, the swelling and bruising became less, and now the girl can walk normally. The assistant tells the lady that this is not like her at all. She asks, why surprised? Shamor says that she usually solves problems without personal involvement. The lady thought that in fact, despite the fact that from Khalada's misfortune, she knew that she would suffer, she would not have time to think about everything, because the body moved on its own. The girl understands that no matter how important Khalad is, he is not more important than herself, and she does not understand why she rushed to protect him, because she thinks that this is not like her at all. Inez reflects that Kalada's misfortune is greater than one can imagine, and therefore it would be good to find the key to solving the problem before something even more dangerous happens. But suddenly the carriage shook. The assistant asks the lady if she is okay. The coachman says that someone suddenly jumped out in front of the carriage. At the same time, in the Imperial palace, a servant informs His Majesty that Duke Helios has arrived. The Duke enters the room and says he is glad to see the son of the Empire. His Majesty suggests that they drop these formalities since they have known each other for 100 years. Helios asks what business he called him for. He is also interested in what he wanted to discuss. Duke Helios is the Emperor's father-in-law and commander-in-chief of the Imperial Knights. The Emperor asks if he knows anything about Kalada Asdon. He replies that the guy is a member of the Imperial Knights and asks if he is. His Majesty says he suspects that he may be related to him. Hearing this, the Duke thought that he could guess what feelings overwhelmed him at the moment when he uttered these words, and he was very surprised when he saw him at the knighting ceremony, because he thought that this man was very similar to his late daughter. The Duke says that he certainly resembles Her Majesty the Empress, but he is not his son, and then he explains that the Duchy carefully monitors the collateral relatives, and therefore it is impossible to hide the child. The Duke recalls that when the Empress was pregnant, she imagined that the child would have her face. The Emperor says that he is even the same age as the Crown Prince. Hearing this, the Lord asks His Majesty what he wants to say, and he says that it doesn't matter how bad his relationship is with His Highness the Crown Prince. On the day the Empress gave birth, Emperor Hires left the palace for a while. Upon hearing the news of the child's birth, he hurried to the Empress, but she died during childbirth. Heres saw his son a month later, as he was busy with his husband's funeral, and he had blonde hair and blue eyes, and whoever looked at the baby would have said with confidence that this was Heres's son. The Emperor remembers that the midwives and maids reported that the Empress had given birth to a baby. They also mentioned the mark of belonging to the ruling family, and he does not understand why he cannot get rid of the trembling that runs through him. His Majesty does not understand why he suspects his son and not the Empress. The day of the Duel Knights Arena, the gentlemen became interested in who will win, and they think that no one has arranged such a grand duel for a long time, because the atmosphere is some kind of festival. Tickets for betting were sold in front of the arena, and everyone could buy one. Inez thought that she would make a lot of money today. The villagers said, among themselves, that he was the owner of the demonic sword, but he was no match for the mercenary who came from the Black Wolf. The owner of the demon blade, without his sword, is an ordinary knight. Even if he is a representative of the Imperial Knights, he cannot defeat the mercenary who lives on the battlefield. And they say that in this competition, you can't use the demon sword, and they don't understand whether it has any significance, and also thinks that Lady Herbert has offered a lot of effort to get the Black Wolf. Shamon tells Lady Inez that the drinks are ready. She asks the assistant what the ratio is. She replies that everyone is at 2 and in their favor. The main character suggests betting a little more on them, because the bigger the difference, the higher the profit. And the main thing is that the coefficient does not fall. And she believes that it does not really matter how big the difference is, because she is selling the right to vote. However, if people want to make money from this, they need to make sure they are getting enough money. The mercenary asks the young master, how about Togo giving up the fight? He then explains that he promised Lady Ronnie not to ruin his face. After all, he doesn't know what might happen if he loses his temper before the situation gets out of hand, so he suggests settling things peacefully. Kalad replies that they are having a duel, not a debate. The mercenary says that he gave the young master a chance and then attacks him. At this time, the captain remembered the conversation with Inez. The girl asked him not to let everything end too quickly and asked to keep him on his feet longer. Khaled replied that he couldn't do that since it was a sword fight. He wanted to fight with all his might. She said that she understood his feelings. The main character asks how he would feel if he waited for hours for a battle. and it was over in a minute. The lady says that they charge an entrance fee, so they should give the people a spectacle. The guy thought that since he agreed to half the profit, he should keep his end of the deal. At this time, the audience says that the owner of the demonic blade is losing, and another spectator says that he is bluffing because this gentleman is an Imperial knight, so he thought he does not know how to use a sword. The mercenary turns to the demon blade's owner and claims that he is nothing, then smiles, and he didn't think that his skills would be so bad. Caleb thought about how he had secretly hoped he would get cut down by someone strong, and he realized he was still going to fight half-heartedly. Suddenly, the audience was surprised, as the mercenary was cornered and fell to one knee, and screaming he said that he was not going to give up. The mercenary stands up and says that the master is finished, and then he attacks, but suddenly from the blow, his sword breaks into small pieces. The winner, the wielder of the demonic blade, Khalad Asdon Hell, and in other words, the winner of the duel, is Lady Inez Eldrin. At this point, Khalad thought about how he had won, and thought that this duel was boring. He also wondered if Inez would be happy, and he hoped that she was happy because of him. The main character tells the guy that he is a good guy, and that he did very well. He got the upper hand over his opponent in the end, and at that moment, she thought that now is the best time to advertise their new product. The girl thinks that when Ronnie shows up, attention will be focused on them, and she thinks that this is a great stage for the presentation. The lady opens the lipstick and paints her lips. Seeing this, she does not understand what she is putting on her lips. The lady understands that Khalad might be a little surprised, but she thinks that it can't be helped, since she can't miss such an opportunity. She thanks the guy for winning for her and then kisses him on the cheek. Inez turns to Ronnie and asks if she has anything to say to her. Hearing this, the girl says that it was she who insulted her. The lady says that it was she who took the truth as an insult and asks if she will apologize. Ronnie replies that she would never do that. And at that moment, Inez thought that it turned out well and asked if it is true that she will never apologize for anything. Khaled asks in surprise if she shouldn't apologize. The girl replies that it was expected, and she thought that it would be awkward for her to apologize, and in fact, her apology was not part of her plan. Inez reflects that she has deliberately created a festive atmosphere, but a duel is essentially a sacred ritual in which the honor of a family is at stake, and she thinks that Ronnie must have thrown words to the wind, not knowing the true meaning of a duel. A duel for an aristocrat is honor equal to life, and in front of such a crowd, she gave up honor and pride and simply ran away. And she thinks about the fact that for some time, Ronnie will not be able to go out into society, and even when high society returns, it will not forget her deed. Inez believes that she will regret running away for the rest of her life. The main character asks the captain if anything has happened recently. He replies that everything is calm and thanks for his concern. Then he explains that everything is fine and nothing special happened after the chandelier fell. The lady says that he doesn't look very well though. The guy said he had nightmares. The girl asks if it bothers him that Dihat was looking for her recently. He objects and says that it is not because of that. A few days before the duel, when she was riding in a carriage, someone suddenly jumped out in front of the carriage. Dihat turns to Lady Inez and she asks him in surprise what he wants. The guy asks if she has received his invitation, and then it is reported that there was no answer, so he decided to visit her himself. Hearing this, the girl was surprised and thought that probably Shamor had filtered out his letter, and it seemed to her that silence would be enough. She wondered if he was ashamed to fall on someone just because he had not received an answer to his letter, and she thought that if everyone were like him, how many people would be hanging around her. Dihat says that he heard that Lady Herbert challenged her to a duel and asks to be allowed to act as her representative. Hearing this, the main character thought that he showed up out of nowhere and said that he wanted to become her representative, and he also wanted to use this chance to fix everything he had done before. The girl asks if he is confident in his abilities. Dihad explains that he has been dedicated to fencing for a long time, and of course, he is confident. But suddenly a horse appeared, and the rider was Khalad. Dihad asks in surprise why this madman doesn't slow down. Khalad tells the lady that he has come to her and is holding a bouquet of flowers in his hands. He says that since she injured her leg because of him, but suddenly the gentleman interrupts him and asks what the hell and why he appears out of nowhere and interferes in their conversation. Khalad asks what he is doing here. Inez explains that he is saying that he wants to act as a representative in the duel. The captain says that he is the one who has never properly held a sword in his hands. Dihad asks how he didn't hold it, and then says that he joined the fencing club at the academy. The captain says that he dropped out after a week, saying that he didn't want to train. Hearing this, Dihad did not know what he should answer, and then turns to the lady and asks why she chose this brat. He says that if it is a question of romance, then he asks if it is not better to choose the one who likes her more, and he claims that the person who really likes her is him, not the captain. The lady asks him what he likes about her. He replies that she is beautiful, rich, and talented. And anyway, when he saw her, he immediately knew that she was destiny. Inez asks if it's true, then she wonders if it was the face and the money that attracted her. He objects and asks how she could think of such a thing. The main character thought that Dihad's answer brought back old memories, countless proposals, hands and hearts, and what came to families on the verge of bankruptcy. Despite the different contents, the meaning of the letters was the same, that he would pay off the debt for the sake of their marriage. Countless letters were sent to the young and beautiful Inez Eldrin. But for them, she was never Inez, but just a beautiful product on a shop window. The girl realizes that she hated it so much that she became rich, and after that even more offers started coming in. The main character understood that if one day she lost her beauty or her business failed, she would again be on the verge of bankruptcy. And she also wondered if they would whisper to her about love as they did now. Inez has already realized how mean and unreliable love can be, and therefore, from her point of view, a good marriage partner is one who does not seek love. A girl approaches a guy and tells him she's too good for him. Then she tells him he's in no hurry to get married. Dihad says that if she says so, it is only because he is not the successor. And then he says that he can explain everything and says that this guy is a fake, and he thinks that even though he became the successor due to circumstances, but in the near future. Suddenly, the captain screaming tells him to shut his mouth. Dihad asks, "What is it?" and wonders why he suddenly opened his mouth. How did the conversation turn to succession? Inez turns to the boys and suggests that they listen, as she thinks there is a misunderstanding, and she explains that it doesn't matter to her who will lead the family. The girl says that she likes handsome guys, and then she turns to the guy and says that if he becomes handsome, she will consider him as a candidate. And at that moment, she thought that this would never happen. Dihad asks Khalada why he is frozen and wonders why he doesn't get into the carriage. The main character thought that the captain's position in the family seemed as difficult as hers, and so she deliberately did not raise this topic. Inez says that she doesn't care about what Dihad said earlier, and explains that she asked him to be her lover not because he is the successor of the line, and says that if he does not want to talk about this topic, then she does not insist. Khaled was surprised and claims that he had never spoken about this before. Why did he become the successor of the Asdon family? The guy says that the thing is that he is destined to die instead of Dihad. Hearing this, the main character was surprised and asks what he is talking about. The captain asks if she knows why he was adopted by the Asdon family. She replies that the Asdons had no heir. She remembers that information about this was contained in the report and rumors in high society. Khaled says yes and no. Then he explains that to be more precise, it is for the sake of conceiving a successor. The girl says that she still doesn't understand. The captain explains that his adoptive parents had been childless for a long time. Then they consulted a famous fortune teller, and it was predicted that if he was adopted, they would be able to conceive a child. A few years after Togo was adopted, Dihat was born, and after Togo had a son of their own, whom they had dreamed of so much, and he thought that he would be abandoned. However, the Marquis and Marchioness chose him as their successor. Khaled reports that he later learned that the fortune teller had predicted that the Asdon line's heir was destined to die young. After hearing this, the main character understood why they didn't let the guy go, because they wanted to avoid fate, and they intended to use him for the sake of their child, and so consider them scum. Inez asks if he can renounce his right of succession. He replies that he cannot, as it would cause problems with the knightly order. The main character claims that this prediction is wrong, and he will live longer than Dihat. The girl understands that both she and Kalada were abandoned by their families, and she doesn't understand whether this trash can be called a family. And she thinks about the fact that in any case he lived to this day, and now that she is near, she will protect him and prove that he is more alive than all the living. Shamor turns to Mrs. Inez and says that she is coming in. The girl reads the newspaper and asks what happened. She replies that the Herberts sent a man again, and she thinks that they seem worried. Inez says all the threatening letters have been sent to the newspaper, and now they are sending people to get rid of the evidence, and she wonders if they are going crazy. Now what will happen next? The main character believes that this is only the beginning, as she intends to destroy Herbert's mouth, and not only the honor of the family, but the name itself. Inez says that the more she thinks about it, the more she remembers things, and then she turns to the assistant and says that she needs to go somewhere. She asks if the lady wants to visit the store, and at that moment, she thought that this anger will not harm the lady. The girl says that today is an important day because it is the start of sales of Eldrin Cosmetics. The main character saw a huge line that stretched to the store and asked if this line was really to their store. Inez sees Lachette and asks why she is there. She replies that the line is so long that she couldn't get into the store. Then she asks Mrs. Inez if they hit the jackpot. The lady replies that judging by the people's reactions, it is. Lachette says that she knew they would succeed, and so it's like a weight has been lifted from her shoulders. The main character turns to the girl and says that she can be proud of herself because everyone came to see her product. The girl, hearing this, says that the lady is right, and then confidently says that she will not be afraid, and she believes that they will cope with everything. Lachette raises his hand up and screaming says that everyone has stepped aside and made way for the creator. Seeing this, the main character thought that even though you wouldn't say it, she was brave. And what can we say about that, since she even took out a loan from a private company? The ladies are delighted to say that this is the first time they have used something like this. The Marquise says that this thing is easy to use, and the shade is beautiful. She also thinks that this is a unique product. At this time, the main character thought that this was a good start, and she ponders that it might be worth thinking about increased production. Suddenly, the ladies started arguing, because each of them was going to buy it. The Marchioness says she's been queuing since dawn to buy it, and another lady says she's had the same experience. Inez approaches the ladies and greets them, then says if they don't mind, could she recommend another product to them? The main character takes another lipstick and tells the lady that since she has light skin, a light shade will suit her, and then she says that she herself used this lipstick today and asks what she thinks. The girl turns to another lady and says that this one has a special color, and most likely she has not seen it before, and assures that this lipstick will perfectly match her outfit. They agreed to take it for themselves. At this time, other ladies heard that this is the shade that Lady Inez herself uses, and they want to buy it and think that they should take it before it is sold out. The main character thought that it was good that they managed to settle the dispute, and she thinks about the fact that she needs to understand how to increase production, and she thinks that she needs to take the bull by the horns while there is a chance. A guy came to the headquarters of the nightly detachment and wished good health to the commander. The sword asks the master if he has been carrying this sword around with him too often lately, and says that he hasn't even polished it that much. The young gentleman thought that the competition was exactly as he expected, But the most surprising thing happened after it, when the lady kissed him on the cheek. Khaled realizes that this is the first time someone has smiled at him and kissed him in front of so many people. He doesn't understand why she is being so casual with him, and he wonders what this feeling is. The knight tells the commander that he has never seen this sword on him, and he thinks that it is very dear to him. Khaled replies that it is a gift from his beloved. The knights ask if he took this sword to the duel, and they are even envious that he received such a wonderful blade as a gift. The young master thought that if he recalled earlier, she bought him clothes, and this time she gave him a sword, and he always only receives. The captain asks what is usually given to lovers. The knight asks why not give her something she likes. He says that she can give her money as a gift. Another knight, crying out, asks if feelings are not the most important thing in a gift. The sword says that he is a good man for thinking about the gift, and reflects that if he continues to be shameless, the diamond will leave them, and then asks if the gentleman wants to say that he is wrong. The knight thought that he could not believe that the day had come when the captain was asking for love advice. The man tells the master that an order has come from His Excellency Helios, and he demands that the slave traders be eliminated. Slavery is illegal in the Venetian Empire. However, slavers operate secretly in the country. The third squad and Khaled have been tracking them for a long time, but only recently managed to obtain information about their base. Having received the report, Commander-in-Chief Helios finally gave the order to arrest the slave traders. The captain turns to the knights and says that 5 remained in the palace, and the rest will go with him. He says that he will take care of the slaves with Ninus, and the rest must cordon off the area so that no one escapes. Khaled knocks on the door. An unfamiliar voice asks, "Who is there?" He replies that he wants to plant peonies in the garden. The door was opened, and the guy was asked to come in. The man said that all the fish were here, and therefore suggested not to rush, but to examine each one. The captain asks if there are slaves anywhere else. The man replies that they are all here. Then he says that he can only find such strong guys with them. Khaled didn't think long, and immediately hit the man, and he fell to the floor. The captain took the keys and opened the door, and then freed the children. The young master tells the boys that it is time to return home. Hearing this, the boy asks if they are not going to be sold. Khaled explains that they have come to save them. The girl asks if she can really go home, and her sister says that she wants to go to her mother. The captain turns to Ninus and suggests taking the children and leaving first. The commander explains that he would like to look around, and therefore orders them to get up and immediately send the children who are waiting outside. At this time, the guy thought that he does not understand why, looking at these children, it seemed to him that he sees himself. He wonders what this feeling of déjà vu is, and he understands that this place is familiar to him. The young master doesn't understand why he has these memories. After all, he understands that it was definitely his voice when he pulled out the demon blade. At this time, the priest says that the time has come, and suggests to look at the sacred tree. He touches the tree and says that there will be a drought in the south. The high priest of the great temple of Pernail. He can predict the future with the help of the sacred tree. However, people consider him special, not only because he is a prophet. Pernael, a person whose soul and memories live on even after the death of the body. A person who has proven that he was a high priest in a past life, takes up this position and continues his legacy. A person who remembers the history of the continent, a sage who sees the future. There has always been only one high priest, and it has always been Pernail. He turns to the lords and says that everyone is free except the high priest. Sir asks the priest, who was sent to the emperor's name, "Day will they return already?" The priest first answers that he arrived this morning. The gentleman asks what he said. The priest replies that the owner of the demonic blade is fine, and he has been watching him for several days, but has not noticed anything out of the ordinary. Hearing this, Purnell thought that this was strange, and he wondered if his memory had yet to return. He thought that by now he should have remembered his past life, and he thought that he probably hadn't met a suitable opponent yet. The Lord understands that the sacred tree continues to dry up every day, and the prophecies become blurred, and he must find it as soon as possible. The high priest reports that there are rumors that the wielder of the demonic blade has become engaged. Parnell offers to tell more about this. The high priest explains that he is dating the eldest granddaughter of Count Eldrin, Inez. Eldrin, hearing this, he thought that this woman was the famous investor, and he is interested because this couple is not at all compatible with each other. The high priest thinks there's nothing between them. Then he asks, what about the cultists? He says they caught one, but he committed suicide on the spot, and so he doesn't even know where to look. The high priest says that since we managed to catch at least one, we will soon find their lair, and then he orders us to continue searching for the cultists until their base is found. Parnell says he would like to leave for a while. The high priest asks where he is going. He replies that he is going to the Venetian Empire because he wants to meet with Inez Eldrin. At this time, the main character thought that the cosmetic business was flourishing, and the sales of limited edition products with her signature were also good, since they had grown 100-fold in an instant. Inez says it's time for her to think about a new business, but she knows that large-scale projects are still difficult to implement. Influential families already control industries such as shipping and construction. The main character understands that the trading industry has been captured by the Gilbert family, and she does not understand whether it is necessary to rush and point a finger at the sky, since it is necessary to approach the choice of the next case with caution. Inez tells Shamor to give her today's newspaper, and she thinks about how good it is to own a successful business. She is interested in what is written in the economic column of the newspaper. The girl reads about Inez Eldrin having a secret affair with Jaird Hoffman. She says that even the weeklies are writing about it. The assistant reports that, in fact, letters from Jaird arrive daily. She used to sort them but recently there have been more, and so she felt she should mention it. Jaird Hoffman, the eldest son of a grocery store owner. He met Mrs. Inez the year before last. The lady had a business meeting with Count Hoffman, to which Jaird arrived. He must have fallen in love with Madame Inez at first sight, and since then he has been persistently sending her letters, and since last year he has been proposing her hand and heart. Of course, the lady continued to refuse the proposal, both in writing and verbally. Shamor thought that from time to time, the lady was bombarded with proposals of marriage. But this bastard knows no bounds. There were times when men would spread ridiculous rumors about an affair or pretend to be her lovers, but this stalker made a night step. The assistant asks if she should finish him off, and then says that she can do it so that no traces are left. Hearing this, the main character thought that her assistant was really angry and was suggesting that she calm down. Inez thought that even though Shamor was a bit harsh in his expressions, they really needed to fight it somehow. And after she found out about the letters, it seemed that he was the one who sent those suspicious gifts. The girl says that at least today everything will be all right, and today is the day of their meeting, and her beloved knight commander is a trustworthy man. She thinks that if everything goes well, she will be able to kill 2 birds with 2 stones. Inez asks the boy what happened. He replies that he couldn't sleep. The lady wonders if he had another nightmare, and she wonders what kind of dreams he has since he has no face. The guy tells the girl not to worry about it. The lady asks how she cannot worry since her lover is not like himself, and at that time she thought that if this continues, her plan will fail due to health problems, and not because the demonic sword will go out of control. Inez considers looking for something to help her sleep. The girl says that she would like to see a play today and asks if he is against it. The young lord is silent. She asks if he would like to. The guy explains that he's never really wanted to go to a play before. She says he can go with her today. Then, the main character holds a ticket in her hands and says that they need to find their seats. Khaled heard a voice that told him to die, and when he looked back, he saw a chair that was cut. He says he will call the staff and ask them to change their seats. Hearing this, the main character thought that the performance was about to begin, and this meant that there would be no seats in the stalls. The guy says there is no way out and suggests going to the box. Watching the action, he thought that even commoners want to see a performance at least once in their lives. Inez thought that judging by everything Chita Asdon had never taken Colada to the theater. She watches the boy and thinks that he is focused like a cat watching a fish in an aquarium. The main character looked at her hand and thought that she knew this play anyway. Since there was nothing special to do, it would be better if she knew about the misfortunes in advance. Grandpa touched the boy's hand and thought about how he hadn't removed it. She saw the prophecy and thought about how this was a relatively minor misfortune compared to the usual ones, and it seemed to her that nothing serious would happen. Suddenly, the director of the show apologizes because the stage equipment is broken, and there is a problem on stage, and they have to end it here, and the refund can be obtained at the box office. And so he asked to hurry up and follow the exit, according to the order. Hearing this, the main character was surprised and thought that this was different from what usually happens, and she did not see this when she held Kalada's hand. The girl reflects on the fact that while she is near him, strange things often happen, and she believes that today's accidents are the work of human hands, and as if someone is deliberately trying to ruin their date. The main character thought that maybe this stalker was following him. Inez asks the director if anyone was hurt. He sees the lady and says that she is always busy and apologizes for the inconvenience. Then he says that fortunately no one was hurt. The gentleman explains that he inspected the stage and found screws scattered everywhere. He assumes that someone deliberately left the screws loose, since most of the screws in the corners, except for a couple, fell out. The director heard this and said in surprise that this couldn't be, because he had literally just yesterday asked the contractor to check everything. The girl understands that she will stop. It is obvious that he is doing this on purpose to ruin the date, and she understands that if he had made a mistake, someone could have gotten hurt. Suddenly, a man approaches the lady and says that if she doesn't mind, she could leave him her autograph. Inez did not refuse, but agreed. However, one autograph was not enough, and she had to do it for a long time, since the number of people who wanted to do it only increased. Khaled watched the girl and thought that actors usually sign autographs for the audience. The guy reports that at first he thought the chairs had fallen because of his misfortune, and he understands that something is bothering him. And he says that earlier in the theater, someone deliberately pushed him with their shoulder and told him to die. The captain says that he recently received several anonymous letters, and they contained curses and death wishes. Hearing this, the girl asks why he did not say anything. The young gentleman explains that this often happens. At this point, Inez thinks that even a murderer comes for his soul, and she is sure that Khaled does not attach much importance to the letters. However, the girl reflects on the fact that the threatening letters to Kalada and the anonymous love letters to her, and now she is sure. The main character turns to the guy and says that she feels like a stalker is watching her, and she suspects that he is still stalking her. Hearing this, the captain asks if they should not immediately catch him. Grandfather says that if he understands their intention, he will immediately run away. And so he suggests trying to lure him and wait for the right moment. In a few minutes, the lady decided to go into the cafe, and the chef met her and said that they had not seen each other for a long time. Inez says she dropped by because she wanted his cooking. The chef asks if the gentleman next to her is her lover. She says he is. The owner of the establishment says that in this case, he will have to try harder than usual. The ladies suggest that he not overexert himself. The main character says that she often came here with her younger brother when they had no money, and she says that the food here is so delicious that she remembers this place even after she earned a fortune. And then she claims that the food here is excellent. Suddenly, the girl noticed that the guy was looking at her, and she wondered why. She thought that the reaction was not as usual, and it was as if he was waiting for her to say something else. The lady ponders that he thinks she is going to reminisce about the past, but for some reason, It seems to her that this look calls her to continue this topic, and it seems to say, "Continue, I am listening." The girl looked at the guy and thought about how he seemed so attentive, and she realized that she knew about Kalada's past, but he didn't. Inez reports that the situation worsened after her parents divorced, and now she earns well, but a few years ago, everything was far from the same. The main character says that back then she saved every penny and went to restaurants only on special occasions. Khaled asks if she didn't have the ability to see misfortune. Back then, she says she did, and he then asks why. The girl reminds that she already told because she suffered because of her. And then she says that she never told anyone about it because she gained the ability when she turned 10. The main character says that as a child she saw only minor misfortunes. Her father took her words as nonsense, and her mother only laughed at her. And no matter how much she told her mother about future misfortunes, she considered them just coincidences, so she treated them frivolously. That was until she told her about the misfortune that Dad had another woman. From that day on, their family life turned upside down. The shameless father divorced his mother and kicked her out, and the Marquis took her and Hilo into his care. At that time, her mother's family was experiencing difficulties, so she did not want to be a burden to her grandfather, the Count, and her mother, and she was forced to stay. However, after Togo heard that her mother was ill, she immediately left the Marquis. The mother told her daughter to keep her ability a secret because she believed that bad people could use it, and so the girl promised her mother that she would not tell this secret to anyone. Inez says that she tried to keep her promise, but after her mother died, she had no choice but to use her ability because she couldn't lose the rest of her family, and that's why she sometimes regrets it and thinks that she should have started using her power earlier because she thinks that maybe then she could have protected her mother. Khaled says that it was the best option at the time, and he still regrets some things to this day. The guy says that the day he first took up the demon blade, at this time the main character says that the stalker she mentioned earlier came to the restaurant. Hearing this, the girl thought that since he had been following him the whole way, it meant that he didn't know that they had noticed him, and she realized that it would be extremely awkward to turn her head and meet his gaze. And besides, he was sitting behind her and she couldn't see him. Inez asks what he looks like. Khaled replies that he has dark brown hair and a mole on the bridge of his nose. Hearing this, the main character thought that, as expected, it was Jayard Hoffman. The guy was wondering if maybe she should detain him right now. The girl says that you can't throw away such food and suggests eating first and then. At this time, the man who was watching them asks what they are whispering about. The waiter says he didn't know another customer had come in and asks what he wants. He replies that it's the same as the other table. At this time, a waitress comes to the gentleman and brings their order. The girl thanks her. The stalker says that it will be too much for one person, and so they offer to bring him at least something. Inez says that everything here is delicious, but especially the morning leg confit. The girl offers the guy to say, and since she wants to see the reaction of that table, and then she holds out a fork with meat for him to eat. The lady invites the guy to try feeding her too. A few hours ago, the main character turns to the guy and says that she has had enough. He asks in surprise if she didn't ask him to feed her. She replies that she did, but understands that because of this, he himself can't eat. The owner thanks for the visit and invites them to come again. And when the gentleman walked down the street, the man followed them. Khaled says he's getting closer to them, and he knows he can get away if he's caught in a crowded place, and he thinks it's best to lure him to the embankment. Inez tells the captain to be careful because she will want to push him into the river, and she sees this in his misfortune. Khaled waited for the man to get close to them, then grabbed his arm and asked why he continued to follow them. The stranger explains that he was just passing by. The captain asks why he simply followed them all the way to the theater and wonders what kind of nonsense he is talking. Jayard turns to Lady Eldrin and asks if she knows him. Then he suggests telling the man. At this time, the main character thought that she would not like to touch him, but she believes that she needs to see his misfortunes. Inez sees the young gentleman's thought that he thought they would break off their date if he spoiled the performance. And was it really impossible to bribe this man? At this time, the main character thought that it was definitely him and what happened in the theater, as well as anonymous letters. Inez asks if he really thought he wouldn't get caught after something like that. Hearing this, Jaillard, screaming, tells the girl that he loves her and then falls to his knees. He says that even though she never responded to his letters and gifts, but to meet such a monster, for him it is like the end of the world. The young gentleman asks the girl if she even knows how bad he felt when he heard this news. And then, screaming, he turns to the captain and says that they did not meet because of him. Jaillard claims he just wanted to talk, and they called him a stalker. Hearing this, Khalad grabs the man by the shirt and says that he knows selfish bastards like him, and then claims that they all come to their senses after getting punched in the face. Jaillard screams for help, then says that he understands everything and will not come near them again. Inez tells him to let him go. The captain says he hopes the man will keep his promise. Then he says that if it happens again, he will kill him on the spot. Khaled throws the sword between the Lord's legs. The lady says that this is a more radical approach than she had intended. The captain says that he reminds him of Dihat and asks if he has gone too far. She replies that he has not and says that she likes it. Inez thanks Sir Khalada and says that if it weren't for him, the guy would have caused trouble. He replies that he was simply doing his duty, as stated in the contract. The guy says it's late and offers to go home. Then he says he'll give you a ride. In a contractual relationship, in which, as it seemed according to Inez's plans, minor feelings and a great misfortune that she could not notice, the estate of Marquis Asdon was engulfed in flames, which continued to flare up with renewed vigor. And at this time, all the servants and those who were nearby tried to fight this fire.